Welcome to the Planning Board meeting in the Village of Dobbs Ferry for June 2023. Wow. We have several items, many items on our agenda tonight, so I want to move smartly ahead. As you know, we are now combined with the AHRB. The former AHRB is part of the planning board, so we have our agenda that has both on that, and we try to do them one by one if they're unique, or if they're only for the AHRB, we would do them first. I think most of the AHRB things are also involved with the planning board, except for maybe two, if I could.
It's 480 Broadway, right?
480 Broadway, 28 Northfield, and 57 Bel Air. So I think we will start by, first I would move that we open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. First item on our agenda, it'd be HRB public, would be 480 Broadway, HRB approved review for proposed plans to construct a new deck with a spiral staircase. Is anyone here to represent that application? Thank you.
Anybody online?
Anybody online?
Well, here has the broader meaning.
We can come back to that.
I'm sorry?
Okay, one person.
Are you here for 480 Broadway? No.
But she's got somebody online, right?
You have somebody? Okay. I don't.
First on the planning board. That's three entries away.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Maria Spinella. I'm the homeowner at 480 Broadway, along with my husband, Stephen Crouch. I did expect our architects to be on this call, but I am here if that's of any assistance.
Okay.
I see Matthew Cairo, who is my architect with ACA, and he is on the call, and he appears to be muted.
Hi, I apologize that we're just a moment late. We didn't expect to be as high on the agenda as we actually are. My apologies for that, but we are here, and I'm speaking on behalf of the project at 480 Broadway.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, it was just
The color.
the color.
Yes.
And I had a suggestion, which I take it was not accepted.
There was some concern about the how well it integrated with the existing
I had a
structure.
suggestion about the base, that the wainscot of brick be used, but that suggestion may not have been taken.
I'm sorry. I'm having a little difficulty getting our presentation up. I apologize for that, but we did look at the issue with the brick, and let's see here. There we are. I'm very sorry that we did look at the brick. Is it not connecting? I'm sorry. Yeah, let me share my screen here. There we are. I'm sorry. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I apologize for that little technical snafu there. We looked at the brick. The issue that we had with the brick was that the posts that are holding up the second floor are so thin that to stack brick underneath it is not really structurally sound. And making the brick piers wide enough to bear the load of the second floor of this deck made the space between them too difficult to navigate, especially where it intersects with the pad of the stair. We just couldn't find a practical way to make that happen. However, as far as color goes, we went for the color that we took from the metalwork and the sort of the slate gray roofing in order to this is a sort of a semi-opaque stain that we would be proposing to put on top of the cedar on this deck. We think that works also with the stone on the deck itself, and that will sort of dun down the color. It'll make the whole thing sort of unify with the shape of the building as well, and that we think is going to reduce its visibility, but also unify it with the structure of the building as currently restored.
Okay, does the cedar tend to age towards gray?
It does tend to age towards gray. This will sort of push it towards that direction artificially, so it'll take on a grayer color over time. But this, as compared with what we had prior, for example, you won't have any of the red tones in it. It'll push it down towards a sort of a blue gray.
Thank you.
Good. I have no other issues with that.
Me neither.
What are our options on this?
I have a draft resolution prepared if the board wants to move forward.
Thank you.
Should I? Yes.
Yes.
Whereas Arthur Chabon Architects is seeking AHRB approval for a new deck with spiral staircase along the southeast corner of the existing residence, whereas the property is located at 480 Broadway and is located in the B Broadway zoning district. And whereas, or actually we can just jump through now, therefore be resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for architectural and historic review approval is granted subject to the following: the approved plans, and they specifically refer to the revised plans dated April 20th, 2023.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Next on the HRB agenda is 228 Northfield Avenue, HRB review for proposed facade change of 4 porch posts. Are you down to doing 4 posts?
Yes, I have no sense of scale. I think that's, Rob was a yes, that's exactly the point. Okay, join this panelist. Now, this is a little bit, I don't know if I can call it a favor, because I didn't know the people, but Cyrus Miandwobi is the engineer, and he said he's comfortable doing all the engineering, but he's not, as enthusiastic about coming before you guys, and he said he understands I've been here before. So he prepared the drawings, and we are here to talk to you about it. I think it's fairly straightforward. I don't know if you want us to go into, it's a 420-page slide presentation.
No. It's just a matter of they're sort of fat porch posts, and you got some nice looking ones, right?
Yeah, what happened was they, those little things are coming back.
We got it right there.
Hey, Valerie, do we need a
Yeah.
public hearing on this, or
No, it's AHRB, so you don't need,
we can just approve them?
yeah, and the applicant has notified the neighbors, correct, Dan? Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you want to, you can take public comment if you'd like, if somebody's here from the public that has concerns, but it's not a public hearing.
So we can approve it tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Has everybody seen what the existing porch posts look like?
I have not.
Okay.
Where would do you have a before or an existing condition photograph or drawing?
I do, if I can get this thing kind of around, which I'm not sure.
Oh, that's what it is now? Oh,
So basically, this is the drawing that shows what we're proposing to do. The 4 columns, the old columns were gone before we ever got involved. In fact, the 4 posts were already up. We've done work to try and bring it more into character with the quality of the house. The elimination of the very large ones, I understand there's this kind of appreciation for that because there were originally like 10 houses that all had that same front. It was like Little Creek Village. But most of those have changed. There's some still left, but the columns they had were really shot. So they figured take them down, put nice posts up, which is what they've done. And
So you're just gonna use the same posts and you're gonna get them improved, or?
yeah, what we're proposing to do is to kind of make it a little bit more decorative. If you look at those.
With the capitals and stuff, yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
I'm trying to move this along.
Yeah, I do. It's like this thing is not cooperating really. Okay, so, and here shows some of the, that was the size before. This is smaller. We've boxed it out. We've added trim at the top, trim at the bottom. We've done a slightly nicer looking railing, I think. They have a very young one, plus a very small dog. And this is kind of what you're getting in the neighborhood. That the subject house is right there on the left, hidden by the trees. And you see the house that's next door. Well, actually now I'm across the street. But this is the house next door, which has the original columns on it. And this house obviously differently maintained. They're still in good shape. As you go down the street, there's more. This is a house with 4 columns that was boxed all in. The columns are totally gone. You can actually see where the porch used to be on the bottom there. This house also was the 4 columns filled in. So there's been a lot of change to those original places. And of course, it's a very varied neighborhood. You've got other houses that do have the thinner columns, which I think, works in fairly well in that neighborhood. I don't think they have to be the thicker ones. So in context with the two, that's kind of where we're at with it. And we're hoping that you agree that this is a reasonable repair of a house, not quite historic preservation.
Yeah, we think it looks good.
I can stop talking?
Yeah, we're good.
While you're ahead.
We have a
Hey,
res.
Valerie,
Yes.
do we need public hearings on these?
No.
No. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, good. All right.
You could ask if anyone wants to say.
Anybody hate this out there?
Anybody out there?
Any,
No?
any other comments or questions from the board, from the audience or the board?
No.
The public hearing, did we open the public?
No.
We don't need
You don't need one. You can go right to
AHRB.
resolution.
We didn't, I can't close a public hearing I didn't open.
Yeah.
No, we
Would
don't
you like
need
to
it.
get a resolution?
Yes.
So whereas Will and Amanda Anderson are seeking AHRB approval to repair the front porch
Gotta
structure,
get this done.
including replacing the 4 existing porch posts, repairing the eave and soffit trim on the roof, and installing a new porch railing. Property is located at 28 Northfield Avenue. Now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and resolutions set forth below, the application for AHRB approval is granted subject to the following, and it specifically refers to approved plans dated February 17th, 2023.
So move. So move.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Third.
Aye.
All right,
Third
good.
and fourth. Okay. Thank you.
Next on our agenda, 57 Bel Air Drive. This is the AHRB again, review for proposed deck replacement.
I have my laptop to show you the pictures that I submitted.
I know what it looks like.
We have the,
That
drawings on
that
it.
deck is in bad shape.
Yeah,
It's basically falling off.
it's actually replacing the deck, but making it smaller. That, I guess the deck was built in, CFO.
Could you identify yourself for the record?
Excuse me?
Name, address?
Larry Michaelesi, owner of 57 Bel Air Drive, Dobbs Ferry.
And the hole in the exterior, what's that about?
We have to re-stucco in the house and repairing the exterior stucco again. And the deck, you see that there's an L-shaped deck. We're taking down the side of the deck that's on the, south side of the house.
Right.
It's going to come out from the back.
On the west side, that one that's falling off, is that, you're just gonna repair that too, or?
No, they take
it off.
Take it off. Just going to come out from the back, 12 feet from the back of the house. And repair the stucco as needed.
And it's basically the same size and shape? You're gonna make it smaller, you said?
Well, it'd be small because it's not going to be wrapped around the house. Right now,
Right.
it wraps around the side of the
So
house.
on the south side, it's the same size?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason they're here is because the original deck wasn't part of the CLO?
I don't think there was a CVO for that deck.
There was never a CO for the deck.
Oh.
Right, okay.
So, and normally any deck,
But it's probably been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
He has to come back to show us the color, so it's.
I have the color.
I mean, we can put a stipulation that
It'd be stained.
it be stained,
Okay,
because in our guidelines.
All right.
you know, it's all-
Yeah, I had stained it mahogany, dark brown, and with the white spindles in the railing.
that's a nice little house. What's the inside like? Is it?
It's getting better.
What's next?
I don't know. It's not a public hearing.
Yeah. Rezo?
Yes. So, again, whereas 57 Bel Air Drive LLC is seeking AHRB approval to replace roof shingles, replace existing deck with smaller deck, paint the existing stucco, and install front porch railings and a French door to the deck. The property is located at 57 Bel Air Drive. Now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasoning set forth below, the application for architectural and historical review approval is granted subject to the following. So I'm going to add a condition that the applicant must submit a revised plan showing stain, what stain, color stain
Yeah,
again?
color stain.
It's on the plan that we have that we're, called it a brown.
Oh, okay.
That
Oh,
was-
it is on the plan?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So
we
just,
can
I select, it's more of a mahogany when I look at the bedroom, more paint chart, but it's on the plan in the notes that
Okay.
brown with white spindles.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
So then it'll be, the resolution refers to the approved plans, which are dated October 8th, 2022.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. I move the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
It's like a Russian show trial. Guilty.
Okay.
Right?
We now move on to the planning board public hearing agenda. First on our agenda is 0 North Mountain Drive, continuation of public hearing for proposed plans to construct a new home on a vacant lot.
Good evening, Pat Steinschneider from Gotham, here on this matter. Trying to get this to advance. Okay. We have not submitted any new drawings for this. I think we feel that we've really done what we need to do in terms of the architecture and planning and site work and the engineering. We're still before the zoning board, and obviously that's a major step. We did get approved or variance at the last zoning board meeting for this being a building lot, so that's been answered. There was some concern at the zoning board that we had been, you were recommending for a house to be built on the property, not this house. And we've approached this when we came back to you with the idea we made the full application. We've presented the house that we want to build. I just want to make sure that, that is clear. This is the same site plan that you've seen at the last meetings. It has changes that were made based on comments and suggestions, and I think we're at a point where we feel that it's worked out. The one major concern that this board has voiced is how we're fitting in with the context of this location, how this house relates to the other houses in the area, how all that fits together, and there was some concern that this house is too big, and it's an expression I've heard on lots of different properties and projects. I don't agree that this is too big for this neighborhood. I think it actually fits properly. When we're talking about the context of this neighborhood, this is a drawing that I submitted to you. This is a really steep neighborhood. Every property in this, as you drive up to the country club, has, rocky crags, and the houses are built up on top.
Excuse me, I'm not sure if we have a problem or I have a problem with the context of the neighborhood. I have more of a problem with the size of the house on the actual property, on the lot.
And of the variance being requested.
So I don't think the question is how I see it as sitting in the neighborhood. I think it's more about that particular design of that home on that particular lot. I think it's too big for that lot.
Fair, and I appreciate the clarification on that. We've designed it with the intent of being fully code compliant. We understand that there's a question, which is why we're still before the zoning board, on the interpretation of that. We do have, I think, good evidence of what it should be, but it's obviously not up to us to make that decision. Until that came up, there wasn't really there wasn't a feeling, it seemed, in the board that we were too big.
I know it was. I think.
I've expressed it since
Yeah, I
day
mean,
one.
you did, your semantics about the house as opposed to a house. I mean, I always thought the mission was to show that the building lot was, in terms of drainage and traffic studies and so on, was a viable lot. Not, I always imagined the actual house was going to be, addressed in the next step, so.
Given the process that we're in and the time that this process takes, I think, it wasn't as though that was happening quickly. We submitted in June. We were before the zoning board in August, I think it was August, September. They referred us to you in October. So
The main focus was always on is this a buildable lot? That's really what I believe we were all looking at.
Right.
Not necessarily the exact home that was being shown on the drawings.
But then you
Because
made.
that's the architectural review board, that's not the planning. So the house,
Okay, but.
the actual design of the house is not really a planning issue. I mean, it is, but it's not.
The ZBA referred it to the planning board first time through to look at it, whether it's a developable lot.
Correct.
And at that point, the house that you're proposing now, it wasn't finalized in terms of the layout and the actual site plan. And then that ultimately was submitted a couple months later.
Well, we were referred back to the planning board by the zoning board.
Right.
Who said, we don't want to be looking at a concept with a general recommendation by this board. We want to have a plan that would be acceptable to be built. They were concerned about the specifics. It's really hard to do.
Right, and that's when they came back to this,
Yeah.
that's when you came back to this board with the house you're presenting now.
Exactly.
Right, and then that's what they've been opining.
So we've been
Well,
trying
Patty,
to.
I'm a little confused about why we're even here. I mean, the net versus gross lot area decision is still in front of the ZBA, right?
Yeah.
And if you were using, based on advice of our village government, we're using the net lot area right now for building coverage calculations. And right now, you're not conforming. So, why are we here? You're non-conforming, and unless the ZBA makes a decision.
So you don't want to see any of the other stuff?
It seems like.
I think we should wait until the ZBA makes a decision.
So my understanding of your presentation tonight was you were going to ask the board if they had any concerns or any additional items that might be provided by you at the next meeting,
Correct.
correct?
Still in a public hearing,
Yep.
but I work here. Members of the public, sorry, Christine Wilson, good evening. Chairman Hunter and members of the planning board. So we're still in a public hearing. Curious if there are any public comments, but hypothetically, if we go and are successful in obtaining the relief we need from the zoning board, when we come back, our question to this board is, are there any other open items We've been bouncing back and forth between boards for a year pretty soon, next month. So I don't want to come back, if we are successful at the zoning board, which I understand, that is.
I think you're projecting too far into the future. I mean, if you're rejected by the zoning board and you have to design a different house, you know, why should we?
No, understood,
No.
but my question to this board is, are there any issues with what you've seen so far? We've addressed site distance issues coming out of the driveway. We've agreed to put in curbing. We've addressed landscaping plans, retaining walls, stormwater runoff to the 10th or 100th of
Yeah,
calculations.
those are all good things.
Right, so are there any other, given where we are in the
The size of the house.
issues with the house? I don't want to come back, if we are successful at the zoning board, we'll be up here in a couple weeks' time, or a couple months, whenever it is, next month, with the same plans. My question to you is, as kind of almost as a courtesy to the applicant, are there any other questions that you have given our proposed site plan right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're rejected by the zoning board, it won't be the same plan.
Understood. I'm saying hypothetically, if we aren't, if we get the relief we need for this, if we get the lot coverage variance or overturn the building, you know, whichever avenue this takes us.
I don't know why we're going here. I really don't know.
I don't want to come back here and have you have an issue with the height, it's zoning compliant.
Well, I do have an issue. We got a letter from a neighbor concerned about water sheeting down that part of Mountain Road. And did you guys see that? I don't know.
Yes.
That was part of what I was going to.
Okay.
But-
So no matter what gets developed there, it'd be nice to have a discussion around that.
There's water management issues, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just have to say, the sense that I've gotten from the zoning board is that I'm sympathetic with this idea of bouncing back and forth. They're not gonna, I don't know why you think, I mean, you're welcome to go back to them and try to convince them, but it seemed to me they were looking to us to basically say, it's okay for us to grant a huge variance on coverage. That's what they're uncomfortable with, right? So I don't know, I feel to some extent we're like going around in this kind of circle
It was,
that you're creating, because it seems to me that the zoning board has been pretty clear that they are uncomfortable with a variance of this size.
so I don't mean to be disrespectful or cut you off, but just to be clear, the original request from the zoning board, and they had 5 or 6 areas that they wanted the planning board to opine on, dealt purely with the original issue of, is this a building lot? Subsequent to that, we had a lot coverage issue that was just presented to the zoning board at the last meeting. They were unaware of it until a couple weeks ago. That public hearing actually wasn't even opened because it wasn't noticed properly. So I'm going to correct the record
Okay.
that it wasn't, the zoning board didn't have an issue, they might in the future, but the original issue was with whether it was a building lot. And they've come back and granted us that variance.
But I think as Steve is saying, given the size of the variance that they have to grant, they say no, we're gonna be looking at a different house. And some.
Understood. And
right.
so my question
for
would be
us
off the
to, like-
table then.
So you're asking us to review something that is, seems to me extremely hypothetical.
So I guess maybe I can turn to Dan or Valerie, because the zoning board, with Lori Lee's guidance, said, go ahead, we'll go through this process, have the planning board act first. The zoning board didn't want to act first. So the zoning board is still not wanting to act first.
That's not accurate. This is on the public hearing for next week with the zoning board, and they're going to make a determination on the request for a variance or the interpretation of the building inspector. I expect them to do that next week.
Right, but they wanted assurances from the planning board that, for lack of a better term, it was pretty much almost ready for site plan approval before they acted.
That's what they actually said.
Yeah, so, and
They
I
didn't
turn,
want to be dealing with a hypothetical, they wanted to be dealing with specifically, referred us back to you intentionally for us to deal with that, and you guys have done that. The thing that kind of mentioned was, for our side at least, was after being before the village or having application from June until the end of January, this issue of lot, net lot area versus gross lot area hadn't come up. It was cited in Valerie's,
Now we're going back and we're recycling here to the same argument.
Yeah, just,
We clearly determined that it's too big for that lot. I even, I've said the owner could buy some more land, and then they'd have the right size lot. And we've all said that. It's, again, that's something we're saying, and you guys are not hearing this.
yeah, I mean, just to clarify, to make the record, somewhat clear, you're blaming the board for how long this, well, you've said, June till last month, like 5 times, all right? You could have easily made your proposed house zoning compliant, and you've chosen not to do it. You've heard, well, wait a minute now. You've heard complaints from this board all along that the house is too big, yet you continue to go forward and you say, well, it's not too big and it's zoning compliant because the building inspector didn't, apply the code correctly. So, to say that the planning board is delaying or the zoning board is delaying, ignores your own inability to change the plan.
No one is saying anybody is delaying it. The process is complicated, we understand that. We appreciate that it's not an easy thing to work through.
I'm just clarifying that when you say, we started in June and we're still here, that's not helpful and it's not accurate.
But like many other things that have happened with this application, that's kind of addressing something that's over here. What we're saying is that matter did not come up. It did not come up. I've watched all the meetings again. I think, Laura may have expressed a concern with the size, but there's no feeling on this board coming to us in January, we're proposing something that was too big. In fact, when that first came up, the 3 members of the board,
I don't know about that.
well, go back and watch the February meeting.
Well, I also have to, for me, I always thought we were focusing more on whether or not it was a buildable lot.
Fair.
I didn't realize that we were also including that design of that particular house.
We
I
weren't.
thought-
Nobody here was.
We didn't think that either. We thought what we were dealing
So then how can we possibly now say like, oh, well, that house was the one that we were planning on building? Like, it's always been too big, in my opinion, and I don't understand how back in January, it never really was relayed to at least me that, or our board, I don't believe, that we were looking specifically at that house. We weren't. I wasn't.
So, can I try reframing the question that I think I'm just seeking an answer to or guidance from you on? Is that simply, if we go to the zoning board and have a public hearing that's opened on the lot coverage variance, and hypothetically, if we are granted that variance, as far-fetched as this board might think it is, but let's say it's granted, and we're back here in 2 or 3 weeks, trying to get a sense if there's more information, or a month, whatever. And I appreciate Member Hale's question about the sheet flow of stormwater runoff, and Patty will address it, but are there any?
We're just going in a circles. I'm going to say again that if we don't, this is not the final house as far as we're concerned, so we don't know if there's any other issues. We're not seeing this as the final house. So, how can we say,
Okay,
there's no other issues?
Are there issues with this house that you?
I think, are you asking them, so let me just broaden this. If they receive the variance, does this board still want to see potential changes to the house that's proposed now?
Correct. Or?
Yes, I do. I'd like to see it smaller.
I don't.
And,
So we'll have to.
Bigger the better.
We'll have to duke it out.
Bigger the better.
I don't know that I do. But I feel like what I'm uncomfortable with is the size of the variance. So if you, in setting that precedent, which makes me very uncomfortable, the scale of it. So if the zoning board grants you the variance, then I don't know that I will have, I don't know that we're all of one mind about that, about whether the house is too big or not. But I feel like it's frustrating to sort of talk about it because
But we did.
it's hypothetical.
We did receive a letter from the planning board, from the zoning board, basically warning us about a precedent.
Saying that they
So-
feel the project should be conforming. You know, unless there's a hardship,
They
right? I
don't-
mean, there's supposed to be proof of some kind of hardship.
There's no reason why it can't be conforming. So that's sort of where we are. I mean, and that makes,
Is this a letter the zoning board recently sent to the planning board?
it was after the.
I'm looking at it now. It's dated April 14th.
So it seems unlikely that they're going to approve it. Just, I don't know if that's supposed to be secret or what, but.
So just a question, at the ZBA, are they looking at both the net versus gross
They're
issue
looking,
just related to this project?
yes, they're looking at alternate remedies, which is either a variance or a review of the interpretation of the building
I
itself.
see, okay.
So it's one or the other, or neither.
Right.
Won't be both.
So in the interest of moving the project forward in some way, if anybody has any comments about the site planning issues or anything like that, I think it's appropriate because it will apply to any solution that they bring. And beyond that, I'm not comfortable saying much until the ZBA
Understood.
tells us where we are.
If there, I'm just trying to understand if there's an issue or a topic we haven't discussed or you haven't raised.
And can I respond to that question about the drainage in that letter?
Oh, yeah, no, please.
Okay.
Let's get that out of the way.
One of the things that there were two items of concern in that letter. And the one pertaining to drainage, I think missed the idea that we're not talking about our drainage. It isn't coming from our site. What we've agreed to do is instead of the water coming down where the curb is not and pouring into the backyards of the houses on that side of the street, we'd be willing to build the curb. Concern was, well, then if you build the curb, you're going to be directing the water down the street. That's the water that's not coming up from our property. I don't think we can accept the responsibility for capturing that.
Well, are you sure it's not coming, some of it's not coming from your property?
No, no, none of that water is coming from our property. Our design by Hudson Engineering has built a capacity that contains all of the storm water, not this difference in stormwater, all the stormwater that falls on the impervious areas of the site. And after that, we've made the entire terrace a basin, which provides a tremendous additional amount of water. And even after that, we've had it that if water still gets through somewhere, being caught in a swale and brought into a basin at the bottom, at the northwest corner of the property. So we've taken that really, really seriously. We haven't only captured our responsibility, we have reduced the amount of water that will reach the road. Right now, there's more water hitting the road than will be when we built the house. The curb on the other side does concentrate the flow. It is a hill. The village has not built a lot of catch basins there. They don't have a lot of structure in that area. Maybe that's something that has to be looked at for the safety of the neighborhood, but it's not going to be contributed to by this house.
I think it's more a question of, will putting a curb in exacerbate any issues of runoff on that road and concentrate it in another area?
If we just push it into somebody else's basement, that's not helpful.
And that might,
It's true that the site.
Well, it moves it all the way
has-
down to the bottom, is what it does.
There's stormwater detention designed into the site if it gets built.
But that's a village problem.
So it's going to reduce the runoff from that site. There are areas of the site that do free flow to the street in terms of the open grass areas that aren't directed into the stormwater, but that's just an existing condition. Overall, it would be reduced, I think.
No, I think that works for me. If
But it's
Anthony
more,
says
you know,
that you're collecting all your runoff, even from your, from your
all-
pervious surfaces,
That's all you're
and reducing
responsible
that,
for.
then
That's-
that answers my
Before a
question.
curb is installed, we'd have to make sure we're not moving a problem
yeah.
to another property
Right,
further down the
right.
road.
And those are the
That's
kind of
something that
things
we
that
should look at more
Anthony-
carefully.
Anthony
And the
understands.
neighbors had made that clear, that
And it's exactly right. The last thing we want to do is a promptu, generous building a curb and exacerbate the problem. So that is something that needs to be studied on a more global level. Maybe there's a.
No, that sounds like a village concern more than your concern. And as
Right.
long as you're
But
doing what you say you're doing, then
But maybe it's. a
you should
different
make it
kind of-
better.
Maybe it's a different kind of contribution that gets made where we capture the water and create a nice little stream down on the golf course someplace. So we can look at that on a different global level. The second issue in the letter was a misunderstanding, I think, of what I said. I was not proposing a change in the speed limit to 45 miles an hour. The fact that that would be perceived, I went back and everything I said, I couldn't catch where I was. What I said was the distance is adequate for a 45-mile-an-hour speed.
Anybody who's ever driven that road knows that that was some kind of miscommunication. You can leave that one there.
Okay, good. Those are the only two things I had of that nature. I could talk for a very long time, but I think Steve would actually get up and come and smack me.
No. Should we open the public hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
I
have
move, we open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody out there?
Anyone here that wishes to speak on this tonight?
Anybody online? No?
No. Thank you. Maybe I'll move to close the public hearing?
No.
Do we want to continue already?
Adjourn it to the
What?
June meeting. You want to,
Adjourn it to the June meeting.
Adjourn it to, okay, adjourn it to.
June
Now you
1st.
wanna Open it again?
Yes.
Second?
All in favor?
Favor.
Aye.
That's a subtle.
All right, we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda, 34 Clinton Avenue, continuation of public hearing for proposed renovation in addition to existing building to create a multifamily residential building. Good evening.
Hi. Christina Griffin, architect. I'm here with Louis Fusco, the landscape architect, Aaron Schubeck, architect, project architect, and the owners here, John Sareva. Just waiting for the,
Yeah.
why don't we open the public hearing while we have a minute?
Yeah, this is a continuation. Move, open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you. There we go.
okay, thank you, Karen. Okay. Okay, we're here tonight to show you a few new ideas and minor revisions really to the design of the building. And then we have a few other changes to the landscaping plan. Regarding the building, we have fine-tuned the link, and we have now decided on the final design. This link is made so designed so that the roof is as low as possible. We have a very tiny dormer at the top and a standing seam metal roof for the top roof and the lower roof over the front entry. And I'm going to show you our color scheme for that in a minute. Next slide, please. Our zoning data chart is the same except for a small change. The impervious coverage is 32.4. I think it changed by 1%. This is a slight change based on the changes to the landscaping plan, and it's still under the maximum of 40.2%. All other zoning data items are same as before. We are still asking for a Weaver because of the building coverage, and that's really related to having that parking area underneath a courtyard, which even though it's completely concealed, it's considered part of the building. Next slide, please. Our site plan has a minor change that I'll let Louis describe when he gets in a few minutes. The plan hasn't changed at all. So this is the same floor plan of the garage below, and we're still comparing the existing to proposed. Existing on the left, proposed on the right. The blow up of our garage plan, same layout as before. And the floor plans, we're just going to run through them quickly because we have not changed these floor plans. Okay, this is the elevation that we have changed. We have studied the link, and we have presented different ideas, modern, more traditional. We landed on this because we felt this is a really nice transition between the old building and the new. And the idea is that this will be a smooth stucco, slightly warmer shade of the color on the building, which I'll show you in a minute, on the building to the right. And then we have a standing seam roof to make a break between the two buildings. And then when you get up close, the treatment of the windows will be very simple. They'll be recessed into the stucco openings. Just kind of a clean look, even though it's sort of a modern take on traditional. I think we also simplified our garage doors, and we've chosen a module, a proportion of all the panes that are very similar, so that regardless of the size of the pane, they have similar proportions. So you have smaller ones in the garage door, larger ones on the first floor, and very small ones up in the dormers. Next slide. This is our color scheme that we feel is the best scheme for the proposed addition. I also brought some color paint samples only because this isn't exactly what we chose. It's close. Every time we look at it on the screen, it's a little bit off. And I don't know if you want to see it up close, but the idea is that the main building is called Dove Wing. It's an off-white, and we have a kind of an olive color for the paint at the shingles in the gable. We have a slightly warmer grayish off-white for the link, and the tones of the standing seam roofing and the fiberglass roofing is a taupey gray. The existing building is going to have similar colors that it has now. There's like a taupey kind of brown color to the door, and the gable currently is a dark taupe. We're going to lighten that up to be slightly lighter taupe colors with a dark taupe trim. And these are all the materials on here we actually had shown you last time. It just came with the color chips in case you might want to see it up close. Okay, next slide, please. Just for background, in case you'd like to know, these are some of the images that inspired us because we want the openings to be recessed and very clean looking. And the image on the left is a standing seam roof, which we really like over the entry door. And there's just concepts that we have used, different ideas in the design of the project. And that standing seam roof with that tiny dormer, that's the idea of the dormer, little dormer that's above the link. And of course, the Queen Anne buildings, a lot of them have this really dark upper gable, and then brick or, the original building's brick, but our new one will be stucco below. Next slide. These are the same elevations we had shown you last time, and images on the 3D image at the upper right. The floor plan is below, just to show you how we have designed the building to have all these breaks. There's a deep break between the left and the right sides of the north elevation, so it gives a sense of almost two buildings. Next slide. This is the same elevation as before, just showing you again. And then here are our side elevations, the south, north, and the south at the courtyard. We have an aerial view. This is the view showing the proposed building with the roof lines that we've designed. It's in gray tones there. You can see how it compares with other buildings in the area. We reviewed this last time. Next slide, please. And This is the latest landscape plan, and I'm going to let Louis Fisco present the drawings for that.
Hi again.
Hi, evening.
Good evening. Okay, the landscape plan, as per the comments from last month from the board, the only real changes, the walk going to the new entry has narrowed out in certain areas. We're still showing locations for some benches on it, but it narrows to relate to the new architecture there. The serpentine wall that wraps at that upper level there, as Christine was mentioning, that matches the old world brick of the building to tie that in. The parking area, we've now indicated, we were indicating those two spots to the left or to the south side of the drive going in as alternate if needed in the future. But I thought, as the board had mentioned, that they would even consider additional. So while the other four are shown on the plan, they're also labeled now on the plan as possible future if need be. So that's something that if the board wants to.
So what is I'm sorry, what does the plan look like if the additional spaces are not, what is this? I'm confused about
What you're seeing right now, that plan has the 4 spaces on the north side to the right with the cars sitting in them. Those would be eliminated and you would just have a drive straight through.
Okay, so you haven't submitted that version of the.
Yes, I have it outlined on that would be eliminated, and it's labeled on the drawing.
Yeah,
because I wasn't sure from the feedback last month if there were enough board members that were open to taking them all out. So I didn't want to eliminate them all and then have a major conversation of taking all of them.
And what would be there? Would it be lawn, basically?
There would be lawn and
just lawn.
Lawn, and the trees would still go in on the property line for screening and all.
Right.
In the event that the future parking did need to be there, we'd be meeting the code to screen the trees.
Okay.
This plan is also showing some additional details for the rain garden and the dry steam bed, which came up on your landscape consultant was asking for some additional details, and that's showing up on this plan. And also, I just want to mention that one of the comments from your landscape consultant was that just that both our Hudson's Engineering's grading plans as well as our site plan and planting plan all relate to the drip line of the trees and both the critical root zones, the drip lines, have all been coordinated on all 3 of the plans now, whereas a lot of the information was just on our planting plan, but not on his plan as well. So that's all been updated on the latest plans.
And how does that get, Dan, maybe this is a question more for Dan, I don't know. How does that kind of protected area get, like, during construction, when things are getting hot and heavy there and people are moving stuff around, how is that?
There's fencing that's on.
There's protective fencing around these strip lines and.
On all. And we can pass on to the. Yeah.
Was there a comment about some of the plantings being close to the property line or a concern?
Yeah, there was a question about that. What we've done with regard to comments that we've made with regard to the planting I know the board's request was to look at the 2 trees. There were really no comments at all on her review of what you were asking about. But besides that, even before she reviewed it and we got her comments, we had already decided to bring back by the neighbor's request of the U in the front, which is that big circle on the lawn to the left is the protection, the tree protection, which would be fencing around. And you see it in the rendering on the right. That's the canopy of the existing English yew that's on the property. The rest of the trees, the basic comments from, just to summarize your consultant, we used the calipers of the trees that were from the original survey. I think she did some new calculations. So her calculation, just from the time the survey was done, there was definitely an increase. However, we were still way over the 100% of, the 6 trees being removed. We have 68 going on, so we were a little over 100. Now with adding some additional trees, we're now at 130% over the requirement of new trees. The comment about There were a few of the trees she felt were a little too close to the property line. We are a little tight on some of the property lines. Those have been shifted in slightly on our planting plan to get them further off the property line. And there was a concern also, I don't think because she hasn't been at the meetings, obviously, the concern for screening the parking, so she was concerned why we had so many trees, evergreens up at the front part of the property where the parking was going. We've left them just because of the possibility of future parking, but we've added some additional evergreens along the north side of the property per her request of adding some more trees there. Just trying to think if there was anything else regarding the planting. There is one viburnum that we had on the list that is, it hasn't been listed as a invasive. It has been in certain states, so we've changed that out and have taken that plant off our list and replaced it with another type of viburnum. That's a native viburnum. Otherwise, she did make a comment about the rain garden, but I think she wasn't, grading on it and plantings for the rain garden have always been on the plan, but I just don't think she understood the elevations of the property. There's no way the water can go. That rain garden was really, as we had mentioned in the past, was to capture water from the neighbor. There wouldn't be a possibility that it would flow upstream to the neighbors, or impact them. Okay.
So if we decide as a group that the parking in the front is not desirable, how does that affect your landscape plan?
That area there, the plantings would all stay, and there's just an area that would be continued with some lawn, and I'd probably add a few more shrubs into that area.
And it wouldn't change the screening from the street any? I mean, would
Yeah,
it be
we wouldn't be eliminating any of the screening trees because they also benefit the neighbor, and their driveway is right there, and their house is forward in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Good. This is a public hearing. I'd like to move that we open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this application? Here in the room or online? Or
Nope.
call your friends or anything?
Looks good.
Yeah.
Well, as a board, how do we feel about the front parking? Are we comfortable with eliminating that, with the ability to add it if it's a problem? And I have to say that I drive down Clinton all the time, and while when the school's busy, uphill from that, it can get very tight. I have never not seen a lot of parking on the street right in front of this place. So
I like grass lawns, but if you look at other houses in that area, there is parking in the front yard too, in various ways. So it's not a unique requirement.
It's usually not a lot. It tends to be along, as it was originally in this house, along a kind of drive to a porte cochere, or kind of, it never felt like a parking lot. These are hard to do, and you already have the pave, you have to pave the drive, and that's too bad, but, so I'm very comfortable with it, especially if the applicant has indicated their willingness, if somehow it turns out there's a problem in the future.
So I have a question about the future. Who determines that parking would be needed in the future, and how does the applicant at that time go about getting parking? Does he have to come back to the board? Does he have to, I mean, how does that work?
How is that institutionalized, that arrangement?
How is that implemented in the future? If that's a decision that we're making now, how does the?
Because the architect will be gone, the landscape designer will be gone to other projects.
We'll be gone.
We'll all be gone.
We'll all be gone.
So it's somebody else's problem?
If you're lucky.
But the builder is here also, John, and John and I have discussed also that certain prep in those areas can be done and still lawn over it. And I think that before the town decides, I would think that the residents, even the homeowners, are going to realize that they need more parking, and it might be something that comes up.
They'll come,
that way.
we'll see them again.
I would just add, so usually in these situations with land bank spaces like this, so the site plan has to show it designed for the spaces. They account for that with their
As
stormwater.
shown, as he's showing.
So it's got to be on the plan, and I believe it is now, shown what could be land banked, and so maybe you have another detail or another
No,
inset or
no, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
so it's on the site plan.
Yeah.
But usually what'll, these things would come about more like, the change would be that there's a problem and the village is alerted to that and, hey, you do need more parking. But it's unlikely we're gonna see that here. It'll probably be more the residents there realizing they need more parking. And then it could just be like, come in as a letter or something to the planning board, just letting you know that they're putting that in, I'm not sure it would have to come back for any kind of action, though.
But the question is whether or not we would want those spaces. Like even if the residents say we'd like them, if we feel like aesthetically we don't want them. I don't really think it's up to the,
Right, it would have to be justified by some problem that's happening.
I guess, I don't know.
And usually it would be something that would be brought to the building inspector's attention, and I think there should be a condition in here that references the land bank spaces, and also that they can be implemented, upon reasonable determination of the building
And it
inspector.
could be like, come from the planning board too, if like you saw there was some issue that parking on the street or, whatever, it's two spaces, but,
I mean, that's the way it is with the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, right? The parking, we're not requiring parking unless that's a discretionary thing that we have to decide if we think it's a crowded part of town or somebody raises an issue. So it's not unprecedented.
Right, but those are two different scenarios.
No,
One
I
is
know.
resident complaints, and the other one is an area problem
Right.
that we're trying to address.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, that's why we're sort of making it somewhat vague by saying that it's up to the building inspector, because either he'll get the complaints about it, or he'll see an issue that's troublesome to the village, whether
All of us, Dan.
whether either or both
Still
come
here.
back to this board, the planning board is another thing. But
Okay.
that would be his determination.
If we haven't done it, I should open the public hearing.
No, we did, we opened
Did,
and closed it.
anybody out there? Please?
Somebody out there. So I think we can close it.
Okay.
Can we close it?
All right, then I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, so I do have a resolution. This one is going to be a little bit longer. There's a number of conditions, so I'm just going to read them. So I'm going to start off with the planning board approval. So whereas the applicant is seeking site plan approval to build an addition to the existing three-story residential building. The property is located at 34 Clinton Avenue and is located in the MDRH mixed-use density historic zoning district. The project is classified under seeker as an unlisted action, whereas this project was referred to and its application was referred to Westchester County Department of Planning for their information. The planning board conducted a duly noticed public hearing on April 6, 2023, and concluded on May 4th, 2023. Whereas the planning board has conducted, now therefore be resolved that the planning board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry finds the project is an unlisted action under seeker Article 8 of the State Environmental Quality Conservation Law, and based upon the review of the EAF Part 1, 2, and 3, all application materials and consultants' reports that were prepared for this action, the planning board adopts a negative declaration in connection with the project. Further, the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that in accordance with Section 340 of the Village's zoning and land use chapter, the applicant must provide one affordable housing unit. Be it further resolved, the planning board determines that in accordance with Section 300-52E of the zoning and land use chapter of the Village Code, the applicant's requested waiver from the requirements of Appendix B dimensional tables in Chapter 300 will be consistent with the purpose of promoting health, safety, or general welfare of the community and said chapter, and hereby grants the following: a waiver from the maximum building coverage of 1,060 square feet, where the applicant is proposing 6,640 square feet of building coverage. Be it further resolved, the planning board finds that there's a proper case exists that requiring that a park be suitably located for playground or other recreational purposes within the village, and that the planning board finds in accordance with Section 300-52J, reservation of parkland, that a park cannot be suitably located on the property requiring payment of a fee in accordance with the master fee schedule for 8 additional residential units. Be it further resolved that the Planning Board of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that upon the reasoning set forth below, the application for site plan approval is granted to the following conditions. The approved plans refer to the April 20th, 2023 plans. The following conditions must be met for the chairman's signature, and they include that the applicant must address to the full satisfaction of the village engineer all outstanding stormwater and stormwater maintenance issues, and I'm referring to the village engineers, and would it be, what's the most current date?
Check that.
Was it,
It was
I
a
have,
couple months ago.
okay, so I have April 4th, 2023.
Sounds good.
Okay. The applicant must meet all outstanding comments from the village's landscape consultants memorandum, April 26, 2023. The applicant must demonstrate that the proposed planting plan meets the 50%, replacement of 50% of the total aggregate diameter of trees proposed for removal. The applicant must provide proof of consultation and compliance with SHPO as required as part of the seeker review of the project and as noted in the February 23rd, 2023 Village Planners Memorandum. The applicant must demonstrate the full satisfaction of the building inspector that the affordable unit will meet requirements of section 300-40A4, and the applicant shall record a declaration of restricted covenant on one affordable housing unit as required by section 300-40C2 to the satisfaction of the planning board attorney, and the applicant shall pay all outstanding consultant review and legal fees. And then there's one other condition. So in the issuance of certificate of occupancy, we're noting no certificate of occupancy shall be issued until the following conditions are met. All improvements shown on the site plan are installed or sufficient, or a sufficient performance guarantee has been posted for the improvements, not yet complete. All easements or restricted covenants have been recorded. Stormwater maintenance agreement has been fully executed, and all fees have been paid, including the fee in lieu of recreation.
Are we clear about how this parking issue is going to be resolved? Is it on a plan somewhere clearly stated, or do we need to add something to the resolution?
We can add a condition that I guess that the land banking is clearly stated, and will be reviewed and approved by the building inspector.
And any changes in the future will require building department approval?
Or the building department may require changes.
Yeah.
Both.
Both.
Okay. So so you want to add, if the building department requires changes, that they can go ahead and amend the site plan? Or-
Well, I don't think you need to amend the site plan if you're showing those spaces
Right,
as.
so we should just go ahead
They're
and
there by default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
install the spaces. Okay. So we'll have the land banking to be reviewed by the building department, and should the building department determine that the spaces need to actually be utilized, that the installation shall proceed.
Does that cover if the request is generated by the tenants?
No.
Yeah, I think.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so moved.
Broad enough.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Now we have an AHRB resolution also.
Can I just ask one quick question about the parking space? So on the site, the final site plan that I'll be submitting, the one that I'm showing now that shows the actual space, or do you want me to show just dotted line?
You could show
Probably
it.
makes sense to show them the way they are and then put a dash line around them and saying reserved for potential future parking
You
or
should
something.
you should do ghost cars there, so they're not.
Yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next item on our agenda is 7 Bramley
Do you
Lane.
want to just do a quick, just vote on the
AHRB.
AHRB? It's gonna, you're giving AHRB
Oh, okay.
approval, and it's the
Sorry.
April 20th, 23 plans.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
7 Bramley.
7 Bramley Lane, continuation of public hearing for proposed replacement of railroad tie retaining wall with modular brick retaining wall system.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and panel board members. We're continuing to make progress, hopefully come to closure to finish line pretty quickly. Originally, the village engineer AI on 28 February provided me with 5 comments on our design. I forwarded them to our contractor and our engineer to address these issues. This was whittled down, and on 1 May, we got a list down to 2 items. One item being the access to the property from the neighbor's property, and also a site plan showing still access road and other items. I believe on the second item, we provided all the comments to that on, I believe, sheet number 3. So if there are any additional comments that are required, please let me know, and we'll surely address them. Now, as far as the MOA, that's a work in progress. The big item of contention seems to be 2 trees. I had an arborist look at the 2 trees. Both trees eventually will be in the way of construction. However, one of the existing trees, an old oak tree that's about 150 years old, so I've been told by the arborist, has significant decay on the trunk of the tree, and its root structure is dwarfed. So irrespective of a new wall, or an old wall, or not doing the wall, that tree is a hazard and should come down. I'm having another arborist look at the tree this weekend to see, finalize the cost and possibly to work out something with Mr. Lee on that. Okay, as far as,
The tree is at the bottom of the wall.
excuse me?
Is the oak tree at the bottom of the wall, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Both of them, one is actually right up against the wall, and one is further away.
Okay.
But the one right up against the wall has significant issues as is.
Okay.
We talk about the wall that I'm proposing, the Ready Rock. As the owner and as a P, I looked at various alternatives before we embarked on Ready Rock. I looked at concrete, I looked at Unilock, I looked at CMU, I looked at concrete planks, and also to replace the railroad ties as possible options. The last option was summarily dismissed because it is of short duration and it's usually used for temporary structures. You usually see it along a highway where in place we're going to put a new wall. It's not supposed to be there as a permanent structure. Wood, has a useful life, I've been told right now, of about 20 years. So I want to replace it with a permanent structure. In 20 years, God only knows I won't be here. But my wife, she's younger than I am, she'll be here. And I don't want her stomping on my grave, or my children stomping on my grave, that I gave them something that they have to come back to this board. You guys might be here to deal with. So I want to fix this and fix this right now. And that's why I'm proposing a Ready Rock. I hired a contractor, I have an engineer, and we're moving out on this. I did get from Mr. Lee, forward from the village, an engineer's report. I did read it. I will respond to any comments the village engineer has to give us on it. However, the engineer goes through a number of comments to include demands, legal opinion, and some engineering comments. To me, it seems like the neighbors are concerned about this project. We want to be good neighbors. We want to do the right thing. We're not here to provide problems for anybody. We want to give them a beautiful, lasting wall at our cost. So any issue that's out there, I want to resolve. I want to make this work, and I want to work with my neighbors. We're here for the long haul. I've been here for most of my life. So we want to make this work. We're not walking away from it. And as the resident, as the owner, and as a licensed engineer, I'm not going to provide crap. This job is going to be watched. They want an engineer looking at it daily. Well, hello, I'm there every day, and I'm retired. I'm nothing better to do than to give this contractor a hard time in the execution of this project. So with that said, I'm working on the MOA, and hopefully we can get to resolution and agreement with the neighbors.
Good, thank you.
So yeah.
This is a public hearing. I'd like to open the public hearing first.
Before we do that, I just have a question.
You have a question? Go ahead.
No, for our engineer.
Yeah.
Which is, have you had, because none of it made any sense. I saw the letter, and I just am not qualified to say whether or not any of the concerns raised are legit or not. So I'm wondering, have you had a chance to look through it, and do you think any of it has?
All the concerns are legitimate concerns. There are, questions raised about the type of material. I would suggest, because it seemed like you were kind of suggesting like we were going to direct, but tell them you have to use a ready rock wall or what type of wall. That's not really what we're going to.
No, I didn't mean to imply that. All I'm saying is, any
Kinda
comments
sound
you
like
have.
that. Let me speak. What I was going to say was, I think you need to get to a point of an agreement with not only that property owner, but there's a little piece that's along another property to the south. There's maybe a 10-foot section.
Well, I believe, yes, they're about.
You'll have to access their property somehow. You'll go over their property.
Yes and no.
Well.
I'll tell you why. That section was recently replaced, and if push comes to shove, I could always delete it
Okay,
from the work.
right now you're showing you're replacing the wall through there, right? So I would suggest you work with the neighbor and the neighbor's engineer independently.
Yes, sir.
Of us. You address his concerns.
Okay.
Now, whether that results in changing from a ready rock wall to some other kind of wall, he suggested, that they're concerned, I think, of just the overall disturbance, okay? So that's something you have to agree with them on and come to an understanding. I would suggest you address his concerns independently. We're not going to address his concerns directly. I think also, you mentioned there were some notes on the plan that addressed something in my memo already. I didn't catch that though. There were notes on the plan that addressed item number 2 or something like that.
Oh, yes. The issue regarding the site plan, we addressed all those comments. I believe I reviewed it with the engineer as well as the contractor. I think all that information is there.
Are you referring to like the sediment and erosion control plan?
Yes.
It's not all there.
Well, tell me specifically what you need, and we'll do.
Well, you could have your engineer call me and
Okay.
discuss it then. It's not, you don't have the necessary details.
That's fine.
We need a real, plan
That's fine.
on sediment erosion.
Yeah. Now,
I
again,
mean, from the village's point of view, the only thing that we need to be concerned with is your review.
Right.
So if you see something in that letter that actually
Oh,
is helpful, you can add it to your review, but we're only
The
looking.
wall drawing you submitted is an engineered drawing, and it also does refer to, geotechnical oversight during the construction. I think that was some of the comments from the neighbor's engineer, concerned about that, like it should happen now, but in terms of doing borings now, but all that stuff needs to be verified before he gets a building permit. So they're gonna have to verify that and have oversight in the field to verify backfill and compaction and subgrade. All that is gonna be worked, would have to be worked into a building
that's
permit.
during the construction.
So-
However, regarding the borings, all the material that's there is coming out. What am I gonna be taking borings of? We're taking all that material out.
Right.
And we're replacing it with gravel or material as
Well,
specified. None of the material.
We could
that I'll
talk
be
about
taking
that.
borings
We don't need to debate
is gonna
that.
remain.
Yeah, I mean, the subgrade capacity will need to be verified in the field, whether you do borings now or when you remove the old wall, the geotechnical engineer has to say what you're sitting the wall on is adequate.
Correct.
Okay, so that would all be dealt with.
Part of the process, okay.
Right. This is a public hearing, like open the
Let
public
me just,
hearing?
well, if I may, say one
Oh.
last thing in closing. The engineer's report, and I know the lead prefer a wood retaining wall with the steel columns. That was the conclusion of the engineer's report. Those steel columns are over 40 years old. There's no way of telling what condition they're in, even if you took one out and looked at it under a microscope, what it's in, and if you did, guess what? That's the only thing you know. You don't know anything about the other steel columns, what condition they're in. And any wall you put in there now, any wood you put in there has at most a useful life expectancy of 20 years. This is not anything as an engineer that I would, certify to on a plan, unknown conditions. And I'm not gonna tell you your business, but I don't think the village wants another 11, 12-foot high retaining wall built of wood.
No, and I wouldn't, I don't think we're gonna dictate that. If somehow the existing piles could be reused and verified that they're in good condition, you could do other things like concrete planks as well. So I think, again, that's something you need to work it out with your neighbor and the engineering.
So how do I know what condition these columns, how deep they go, what condition they're in?
I'm not telling you you have to do that.
As an engineer, I don't know how you could possibly do that.
Let's open the public hearing.
And the other thing is this, let it be known, the work is the same. The labor is the same, the excavation's the same. The only thing different is the material. Ready rock is a permanent product, wood deteriorates. The upsetting equipment, that's all gonna be the same. The difference is the cost of the material that I'm paying for.
Yeah, you have to sit down with their engineer and work and get through those issues.
Good. Public hearing, open public hearing.
Thank you all.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this? Ah.
Good evening. Josh Kimmerling from the law firm of Cuddy and Fader, and I represent John Lee and Prince Hugh. I'm here. They are out of town. I think they are on the Zoom meeting, along with our engineer who, as I've heard, you've received her letter. We are the property that is most impacted, obviously, by this application, directly below grade. Existing wood, steel piles. We have a different position as to alternatives that should be considered, and as was raised, as good neighbors, we do intend to speak further with the applicant on this. We're not oppositional just for the sake of being oppositional, but there are serious concerns here as to the nature of the proposal. And we believe additional information is necessary, and we will endeavor to do that, I suppose, between ourselves and hopefully bring that to the board at future hearings. There hasn't yet been an agreement reached. There's been some discussions, and all of the items that were raised about different styles, different aspects of a proposed alternative should be considered. I don't know if you've all considered the submission by the engineer Beth Proctor. She is on the line. Beth, are you there? And maybe you could touch upon a few points that were raised by the applicant and that were presented in your letter.
Yeah, we do have the letter.
We have the letter,
We've all
we
read
read
the
it.
letter.
Beth, are you there?
Yeah.
Beth? Calling once, calling twice? No.
Yeah, I think it's really good that you're discussing this and working it out, because I think it is sort of urgent for 8 Beechwood Court that this gets solved, because the wall is in not good condition, and it's, just a matter of time till something starts to happen with
Yeah,
it, so.
I think as Beth indicated, it does appear
You
that.
should accelerate the schedule to work out what you're
Yeah,
going to do.
no, we intend, and as the applicant indicated, there was one section that was recently repaired. And interestingly, it was repaired with the same system and structure being in place, with the usage of the steel, with the replacement of the wood. So that does appear to be at least a viable alternative.
This is Beth. I am here.
Oh, okay.
I just figured out how to unmute myself. I'm sorry. It took a little.
The one other option that should be on the table is the neighbor to, I believe it's to the south, where also the wood and steel pile wall continues, recently built a and Beth can describe it, a concrete retaining wall inside, in other words, on the other side, on the property owner's side, and kept in place the wood retaining wall with the piles. So that could be another option as well here to maintain that, because obviously, as the memo indicated, there would be significant disturbance, damage, site monitoring, testing. It would be an invasive project, not only because of the materials that are being proposed, but it's actually a much more significantly larger retaining wall. But Beth, maybe you could just touch on a few of the issues.
Yeah, I can do that. What they're asking to transport onto Mrs. Yu and Mr. Lee's property are, by my count, 199 individual blocks, each weighing between 1,630 pounds at the lightest to the heavier blocks weighing 3,290 pounds. And somewhere these blocks have to be transported onto this property and stockpiled. And the wall has to be built from below because this is a gravity type retaining wall. So it really cannot be constructed from the other person's property. The access to this property is, I mean, there are windy roads. I don't know what they're rated for. I don't know how they're going to get trucks there. And then they have to drive between Mr. Lee and Mrs. Yu's house and the neighbor's house to get to their backyard. It imposes potential loads on their foundation walls, which need to be addressed. They need to put some shoring in. I just don't even know, after visiting the property, where they would put all this material. That's probably my biggest concern. As for the existing wall, it's constructed, it's really a timber retaining wall. It's steel soldier piles that are pounded into the ground, and they may be socketed in rock, given the location. And then between them, they dropped horizontal timber lagging to just span the 8 to 10 feet between the soldier piles. So to take those railroad ties out and replace them, you could do that segmentally and not risk the entire property behind sliding into the property below. They're showing a one-on-one slope, a 45-degree slope being dug behind the wall. Now, by my measurements, and I tried to scale these drawings, the swimming pool is roughly 11 to 13 feet away from the existing retaining wall and where the new wall would go. With a one-on-one slope, I mean, they're showing the deep end of the pool in these calculations as being 8 foot 7 inches deep, but there's a shallow end, I'm sure, of the swimming pool as well. You're going to undermine this pool. They're going to need to empty it with water, and I don't know how they stabilize the existing swimming pool to the point where it doesn't go sliding into the neighbor's backyard in a rainstorm. So there's quite a bit of impact to the lower property. Virtually all of the construction is going to happen down there. There's going to be excavation on the upper property, but all of the materials are going to be moved
Why not?
on the U and the Lee property. So it's a big impact.
I think the chairman is suggesting a site visit.
I think it might be worthwhile.
It's very hard for me to understand how there can be this much controversy over a wall, but I'll accept the fact that there is, and I need to see it. This will be a public hearing, and we can be spoken to. So I think if the board would agree, I think we should schedule a site visit to the property.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I think it's a smart idea. And there's also a question as to why the new wall is going to be 2.5 to 3.5 feet taller than the existing wall.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are all things that need to be discussed between the neighbors and the engineers.
Yeah, I think so. I just tried to outline what I saw with concern.
We're not going to say that's okay right now.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
If I could just make one comment. I'm not sure, how much the planning board wants to direct or dictate the type of wall, unless it's some kind of aesthetic thing, right? So it's all contingent on, look, they need access through the neighbor's property, so they've got to the neighbors have to agree to this. So if the current staging and wall type and the blocks and all that's not to their liking, they're not going to agree to it. So they kind of need to work that out.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think the technical, we're not here to debate the structural design of the wall necessarily. That could get dealt with as this progresses and if it changes, and with building permit process also, so.
The only thing with that is our code does encourage a stone wall. Our guidelines does say stone.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, I guess, I'm curious what is if the existing wall is unsafe? Like, this is a sort of a legal question I don't know anything about. Like, can access be denied if it's to address a deteriorating situation that potentially is unsafe? And it can only be solved by having access to somebody else's property.
Well,
can that access
that's a
be
good question.
denied?
I'm not exactly sure, but, if there was a finite issue, I presume the neighbors wouldn't have a concern with allowing something to be fixed. But replacing the entire wall, unless it's, well, if they're alleging it's going to, be a hazard or an issue now, I'm not sure.
I think it was represented, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the owner, who was a PE, I think said it wasn't, imminently, danger of the collapsing, but, there's obviously problems with it and deteriorated.
But the owner is to be commended for trying to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Because it is a potential problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, of course.
So.
Thank you for that.
So.
But I do agree with Anthony that most of the issues are for the neighbors to work out as neighbors.
The agreement.
One would think.
We can't do it.
One would think.
Thank you.
One follows the other, so they need to satisfy the neighbors. They should work together, get through those issues, and when they're satisfied, come back with the new wall type or some different plan. But we did ask for a couple more details with the staging and the sediment erosion control for the impact to the neighbor's property primarily.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
You want to just adjourn?
Do we want to set a date?
Sorry?
I'm sorry?
So we haven't closed the public hearing yet.
Well, we haven't closed the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yes. After this, we'll adjourn it to June 1st.
Again, let me reiterate.
Whoa, stop.
Good neighbors.
There was somebody
And
else.
I'm not here to armchair the comments. However, just a few salient points. The guy who's doing it is a licensed contractor. I understand what the engineer is saying about the loading on the ground. We're going to be putting mats down. We're not running equipment in there without mats that are going to disperse the stress on the ground. That we're going to do. As far as the comment regarding the swimming pool, we show on the drawings, and I direct your attention to the particular drawing. Remember, the drawing number escapes me right now, but we show temporary shoring to be provided by there. We're not dependent on a one-on-one slope for the edge of the pool. So that's addressed in the drawing. I suggest you can call me or we can look at it together, but it is shown there. We will do that. And as far as the disruption to the property goes, it's the same disruption if we do it with wood or we do it with material. At most, it's going to take 2 weeks. And this project will be over. We're going to be responsible for any damage to the property as well as the landscaping. We'll reseed, resod, do whatever it takes to make the leaves whole. And then the item was mentioned regarding that one section of retaining wall as evidence. No, not so fast. That's a small section, at most 8 feet high, that was severely rotted. I did not want to wait for the permanent fix
Sir?
to address that.
You have to address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a temporary fix because it was imminent collapse that I was concerned about, and I took a temporary measure and replaced it with wood tiling, not to be a permanent fix. I want to be able to sleep at night knowing that I have a sound retaining wall for myself, for my family, my neighbors, and for everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Board, do we wish to do a site visit a couple weeks out?
Sure.
Should we wait until we see a solution? No, we don't really know what's happening right now.
Yeah, you probably should wait,
Well,
because there's nothing to decide until the property owners come to an agreement. And if they don't come to an agreement, you're not
okay,
going to be able to.
all right,
No point going.
So
All
we
right,
adjourn the public hearing to the next.
all right,
June 1st.
okay.
Thank you.
Adjourn the public hearing to the next meeting.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Yep. Oh, my God.
11 Fairlawn.
All right. We now go to pre-submission conference for,
Nope,
Nope,
11 Fairlawn we
11
still
Fairlawn.
have.
no, 11 Fairlawn, I'm sorry. 11 Fairlawn Avenue, public hearing for proposed new single-family home and associated site and landscape improvements. Holy smokes.
I know, it's only 8:30, it's still early.
Well,
We're doing actually pretty well.
yeah,
It's all relevant, you want
compared to last month.
Hello, my name is Greg Sharp. I'm representing the owners of 11 Fairlawn Avenue in Dobbs Ferry. I presented this project at the last meeting and have been through the zoning board and have received 2 zoning variances for this project. I feel that I have addressed all of the comments that were presented to us by the various engineers. And just want to, say that we are working away on the engineering aspect of the project. We're working on finalizing some of our engineering regarding the retaining wall and some of those items that I know that are of issue with the town. And that is something that is in progress and underway. I met with Dan Romer today to discuss some discrepancies on the zoning chart, and I believe we resolved that. The project is in full compliance of all zoning-related issues. And please let me know if there's any other additional questions or concerns. I'd be happy to address them.
This is a public hearing. I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Anybody want to speak on it?
I don't have any questions?
This is a spectacular site. I was out there today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody online? No?
We're very excited.
Maybe I would just add one thing. There were provisions on the site plan addressing our concerns in terms of notes that geotechnical engineer and structural engineer would be providing a slope stabilization plan and final, retaining wall design. I think because it's so key to this site amongst staff, we thought that that should be advanced a little bit to make sure there's no change with the site plan. So maybe for the next submission, I don't know how far you guys are with that, but I think there's a consensus among staff that it might be better to see some movement on that to make sure nothing would change, say, on the wall positioning and so forth.
The wall is being replaced in the exact same position as the current wall, so there was a previous wall put in, and as you are aware by the neighbors' conditions, that those walls are not very good. So we're going in with the assumption to just replace that wall and rip it out, but we are replacing it exactly in the same location since that was, I guess, part of the previously approved subdivision and conservation easement. The fact that there was a wall in that position, that we're just planning on replacing it with a better wall, I think sort of that is our goal. Our goal is to basically be at the same exact position, but just put in a better wall. Our engineers are working on it. There was an extensive geotechnical report that was done, and so that work is in progress. So I think we are moving it along, and we understand that would be a condition of permit, that everything is satisfied with the retaining walls and the engineering. on the soil nails and any other engineering positions. The issue is that it's not that the issue, because we are working on it. The issue is that, as the engineer says, you have to work from the top down. So the engineer just doesn't come and say, I'm going to do the wall. He says, I need to do the whole house. So it's right, I need to get the house, we need to do the roof, we need to go down with the columns need to represent this, and then we need to do, where the drill piles, the micro piles are going to be, and then how that has grade beams off to the wall. So there's extensive sort of like workings that have to go with full structural plans.
Right. Who's your engineer?
Cyrus. Integrated engineer. He's the local engineer. He's the town, works in the town.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be reviewed one way or the other.
That's right.
Either initially now, it'll have a final review, building permit, but I don't know, Dan, did you have an opinion on this as
The
well?
only thing is, if the house moves after they get their review back or something, then you're coming back for a site plan approval again.
We're okay with that.
After you get your reports back. I don't know that that'll happen, but it's a tricky site.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we want to hold things up for no reason.
Right.
But if something like that does happen, is there any reason that, they can't, they wouldn't have to go through this process again?
Right, if the public hearing's still open until we get the reports back.
So you prefer
Otherwise, it
that?
would be an amended site plan. It'd have to be.
I guess you're asking if like something changes significantly, if it has to change as a result of the geotechnical, the structural analysis. So I guess that it would be a risk they would be taking if it amounted to an amended site plan. They'd have to come back and show you.
Right.
There might be some discretion in terms of building inspector and myself looking at it if it's a small change, to the site plan.
But that enables us to close.
Should we push it a month, or should we? No.
I don't think so. Not if we.
I mean, it's going to be a longer process if that happens than if we just keep it.
But they're taking that risk.
But you're taking that risk.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is it.
As Dan had said and the engineer has said, I have to do this work. Like, I can't build the project without it. So we're 100% committed to doing the engineering. The engineering is in process. Part of it is obviously that's part of a permit set of documents. That's part of a structural package that we're producing, which is, the structural drawings for the house. And so I understand we have to do it. We have to do that. We have to do the rest of the engineering that's involved. We have to do all of our energy code analysis. We have to do all of these things that are permit related.
No, our question to you is we would like to help you move forward.
Okay.
But there obviously are still variables that might affect the site plan.
Okay.
So the choice from your standpoint, I mean, I'm asking you is, do you want us to approve the project now with the understanding if an amended site plan has to happen, it's going to take longer to get approval than if we just keep it open for another month, you get these engineering documents in place, and then we give you the approval?
There's two parts to that. One is I'm confident that we don't have to move the house because of the fact that this is where the house was basically planning on being all along, and that the retaining wall is being replaced in the exact same location. But is it possible to approve the house in the AHRB portion of it and then say leave the site plan? Is this it's almost like, is there a possibility of a partial approval that allows the project to move forward?
It wouldn't be a partial approval. Either you're going to get a planning board resolution and/or an AHRB resolution, or not.
Okay. So they're together now. There's no separate.
There's no reason to separate them.
There's no separate.
I
Okay.
don't think you wouldn't be able to move forward with the project with just
The design has to get
AHRB.
completed anyway,
Right.
to get through Dan's office for the building
Yeah.
permit, right?
That's right.
You may not really be losing any time if you waited, but it's, I guess the board's leaving it up to you. If you want to get approval, there's just that slight risk that there could be an amendment needed to come back in.
No, we don't want
I have a
I
question.
mean, that's like, you're asking me, do I want the approval? It's like.
I have a question. You're getting no Fair Lawn Avenue pretty well. I mean, because on the south side, what's
Yes.
happening with that wall and stuff. So what was the issue with the house on the very south side? It was just a crappy wall, or?
The wall,
Uh-huh.
Those problems.
Are they, any of the
And
other?
Ida came through there. Ida? Was it Ida?
Oh,
It
Ada,
came
yeah.
through and that, some damage there too.
So was water infiltration or something?
Yes.
And then the other houses along Fair Lawn have not had any issues?
Not, every other one's on the other side of the street. The two that are on that side of the street, they had issues. That's why I was saying, maybe wait until they get all their reports back. But
Because we know that this is a funky.
it's an issue,
Slope.
there's issues over there, yeah. There were a couple engineers that looked at the sites.
There's a public hearing. I think we opened it. We didn't know.
Yeah, nobody had any comments.
Nobody had any comments.
Yeah, we opened it.
All right. I move we close the public.
Wait a
hearing.
minute. Are you going, you have to just, it's really up to this board as to whether or not you want to approve this or make them come back in June.
My
Yeah,
sense
that's-
from Dan, reading between the tea leaves from Dan and Engineer Anthony, is that it seems like, that was my initial reaction, is that we should wait until these engineering reports are submitted and reviewed.
I
and
agree.
It's done and done.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna hold you up really, because you gotta get those reports anyway.
I totally understand and obviously respect the position of the board, so I will not push the matter further and will accept that advice.
But we like the project.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we don't have an architectural, right, we like the project.
Okay.
It's nice.
No, it's all good.
It's like closing out this.
We don't want it sliding down the hill.
No, listen, I appreciate your time and understand the position. And so obviously I will do what I have to do to push the engineering aspect forward. And as I, said, I will probably have hopefully the full permit package ready at that time. So it will be more or less, not losing time, but basically be able to get that together during this period.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll want to adjourn till June 1st.
Okay, adjourn the public hearing to June 1st. Second?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, good.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we're going to go into pre-submission conference for Planning Board AHRB agenda. 0 Lafergie Avenue, continuation of pre-submission conference for proposed plan to construct a new 2.5-story residence. Uh-huh. No problem.
Well, this is good. You don't have to mess with the computer. That's good.
The stormwater, landscaping, trees,
So did everybody have a chance to drive past this site?
I did not. I'm even confused where it is.
No, it's,
Is it signed?
0.
yeah, it's not signed. There's just two houses with a blank space in between.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very.
But is it 0 or is it 87?
It's probably
Even Google Maps is
79 or
confused.
87. But it's very steep.
Very steep.
Bank coming to Lafergie is very steep.
Yeah.
And the resident who was here mentioned that there's just no place, as a pedestrian, there's no place to get off the road easily. People walk along that road, so that could be an issue.
Kids hang out on the corner there and wait for the bus.
Oh,
every
really?
morning. I drive by there every morning, yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow, yeah. So, yeah. Yes, this last part, you can see the level change here. It comes down to,
There's a section also that
it's
shows,
very steep.
yeah.
This right here is,
And there's a section also somewhere that shows like a really,
oh, a section.
but it's buildable. I mean,
You have to speak into the mic because it's being recorded.
and that
My name is Lanny Lerner. I'm the architect for the project. I want to give you a little background on the project. The site is an extraordinarily steep site. It runs 36 feet front to back vertically. And the house has been designed to step up the hill. And that's why it looks a lot the way it does. This is my first time before this board, so I would appreciate any guidance about procedure.
Just keep going.
Okay. We've got the materials laid out here. We've got the windows as a dark bronze Anderson-type window. The siding is going to be hardy plank, very light, maybe white. And the stone, we have a gray rubble stone that's going to make the base of the house pop. And I want to show you I don't know if you can see the elevations, but you've probably seen them before, right?
We have this in the submission package.
Yes, you
I'm
do.
looking at it on my screen.
Yeah, okay. We also had, we have a lighting plan here which shows the driveway lighting, which is, we have, I can show you samples of the lighting if you're interested to look at them now. But we have down lighting that runs the whole length of this wall that forms the driveway.
You know, I don't, oh, it is on the public meeting to talk about the architecture. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
Pre-submission for both.
Yeah, for both. It's for site plan and, sorry to interrupt.
We have our engineer's drawings. Some of them were not delivered to the board on time, but we have them here tonight.
I have a question about
Yes.
87, your topo profile on 87 Lafergie. It's on sheet A2. The last bit, as you come down to Lafergie, it seems like it's dry. I drove past there. Seems like it's a lot steeper.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Drawing A2. I don't know if you have that one.
It's a cross-section through the house on the site.
Yeah, that's not right it. Maybe you don't.
Maybe you don't have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, please.
So the drawing shows it's just a section of the house and the lot and so on.
Yes.
But as it approaches Lafergie, I'm not sure where the section is, but at least what I saw when I went past there was it's very steep right at Lafergie. It probably goes up 8 or 10 feet right at Lafergie. And in the drawing A2 in your section, it's drawn a lot less steep. So I just was curious about that.
That's why we designed it to wind up the hill and a couple of switchbacks. There's no other way to get up there.
So it's a section at the driveway?
It's a section through basically the center of
Here I
the
can.
property.
Oops.
Dan, do they meet whatever, or we have a standard
This
for how
one here?
steep
Yeah.
driveways can be?
We do.
Did they manage to hit it by doing this,
Yes, I believe it was 10%
It was
grade.
10%
Yeah.
and
maximum.
you hit it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then,
Good luck when it's icy.
Started, I slide.
We have pictures of the surrounding neighbors. I'm not sure what you need to see tonight.
I think you're doing okay.
All right. We've got a landscaping plan, which calls for replacing some of the old trees were taken down with about 55 to 60 new trees on the site, of half the caliber apparently. That's what's required.
And the trees that are, I guess you've noted the trees that you're taking down.
Yes.
Types of trees.
We have stormwater all worked out. And all of the engineering has been done.
yeah, I was gonna say, the only thing I know, it just looked like, but maybe you've submitted stuff since, and in the
Oh,
review
this is-
memos.
This is this is stuff that hasn't been submitted.
Right, okay. I was gonna say there was a huge list of stuff that needed to be submitted, but that's what you've done, that
That's
we'll have for
what's
the next
all here
meeting,
now, yes.
presumably, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would suggest for the next meeting, 'cause one of the things we noted was with the engineer's drawing, he kind of had everything on one sheet, and you really couldn't read it
Okay.
well. You know, we caught a few things there, but
I
he
think
called
he's-
me today, actually, the engineer, actually the other day.
I think he's got 4 sheets now.
Yeah, so he mentioned he's gonna call me tomorrow, he said also with some other questions. I would suggest you do a full submission of all these sheets and the engineer's sheets for the next, you know, so we're clear on what's been submitted. And
Absolutely, yeah.
And we could do a little more in-depth review and then look at those cross-sections and all that, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm curious, do we on the board have any issues with the architecture and the basic site plan? I don't, personally, I'm curious.
Looks good.
No.
So is that rock going to be in the new house? Or are you jackhammering or have to
It's very,
excavate?
we're anticipating very little excavation because it steps up the hill rather than digs into it.
Right. So in the topo profile section that you have here, is that rock in the house? Or I'm a little,
Well, the part that shows in the house obviously has to be excavated.
that will be
As
excavated?
much as we can, yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, because I had a house in that area that had rock in it, so I was just curious.
Did water come out of the rock into your?
Yes, it did.
Water comes out of the rock into my basement.
But they
Try
built
not
a
to
nice
do that.
little wall around the rock, so it would just hang out there.
Swimming pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my only concern, I'm just looking at the entrance on Lafergie, and Lafergie's so tight, and it's, I guess, people walk there, and the sight lines coming, back and forth of pulling out of that driveway concerned me a little because of the bank and so on, so
What would you do?
I'm not sure.
I mean, it is just a house.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not gonna be, it's not a restaurant.
No, but it's like zero north.
We have in past projects talked about, making space for sidewalks in the future or asking people to start that process. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, or taking bits of the bank out so that it could be level for sidewalk, or at least you could see both ways. So it's just a
Yeah,
concern.
Would you like, they could just do a site distance, take a look at it, their engineer.
That might,
If you,
that's,
thinking
people,
that
people talk about
It's pretty
Zoom.
straight on that run, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
pretty straight, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's plenty of visibility there.
Mhm.
but just to see if it's warranted to, change the grade along the property line in front, maybe just a quick look at that. Sounds like the board would like to see.
Right
that.
on Lafergie.
Including if the driveway is cut into the bank.
Right.
You can.
And it's gonna be.
Block your visibility.
Right.
You want to make sure that
Yeah,
doesn't
it's-
happen.
It's a tough site. It's really, just to get up to that parking area.
Yeah.
Or one of those big convex mirrors across the street.
What we're most concerned about is getting on to the public hearing next month, if that's at all possible.
Yeah, we can do that.
So if the board does that, just Anthony and I have not reviewed any of these submissions, so, even if we do review and then there's additional, I wouldn't recommend having a resolution ready, because there probably will need to be, there's a lot of information that we haven't seen at all.
Right.
So we should probably wait.
We can have the public hearing.
Yeah, you can have the public hearing, but
don't-
normally
not-
that
I'll
you
call
usually
for-
have
to
a
it,
yeah.
resolution
Okay.
ready.
All right.
And there
All
might
right.
be some additional.
All right, I move that we have a public hearing at the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay, thank you very much.
all right, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Do we want a site visit? Not really.
We were gonna drive by individually.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make
Yeah,
it
I've
to do
tried-
that.
I'll do that.
tonight.
You can go by.
What's the
individual.
address on that? Is it 0 or is it?
We all commit to
79.
drive by or walk by or whatever.
Conflict.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Well, it says 87 here.
87.
Yeah,
Sounds like that's more accurate.
Yeah.
What does it say? No, it's just.
Next on our agenda is 25 Osceola Avenue, referral from Zoning Board of Appeals for proposed plans to construct retaining walls. And we don't need any more retaining walls tonight. To level rear yard and ancillary site work.
I believe
25
he's online.
Osceola.
Christina, I believe he's online.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, oh, okay.
Hello,
Hi.
Hi.
how are you?
Hi. Hi.
Here.
We miss you here.
I was going to come, but I would have to bring a sleeping bag. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Michael Savali. I am the proud new owner of 25 Osceola. I'm sure some of you remember the Osceola subdivision many years ago. I wish Mr. Lockhart at the time was a seller rather than a subdivider, but we have a nice new house next to us and a great new neighbor. Excuse me. I live in the house with my wife and 4 kids, 3 girls that are in the Dobbs Ferry School, 11, 8, and 8, and my son is going to go into kindergarten next year. We've been in the neighborhood for 6 years, and I wanted to maybe share my screen just to make sure folks are aware of the property. Let's see, how do I do that? There we go.
And I superimposed the. It's the second house up Osceola.
Yep, I'll, no, this is not it. Hold on.
I made that. That's not on this drawing.
Yeah. Wait, show me where
I'm gonna give you the show. Here we go. Can you see that now?
There you got it. Yeah, you got it.
All right, so here I am, 25 Osceola, coming down Osceola. Yeah, so let's see here. How do I change my page here? Let's see. All right. Okay, so this is my house here, the second hole of the golf course here. This is just looking at it the other way, coming down Osceola. Just so you know, on this plan, I've spoken with all of my neighbors. I know you received a letter from this neighbor here, which we'll talk about. But I have a letter of support from this neighbor, a letter of support from the Ardsley Country Club, and I've spoken to and shown the plans to all of these neighbors here, and they're all supportive. This is the house as you see it from the front. I think it's important to note, this is what the house looked like 4 years ago. Small little trees in the front, and this is what those trees grew into today. If you ask me, it's unfortunate that they're blocking the house. So as part of my plan, we're removing these trees and we're bringing back this view with a pure grass look in the front so that people that go to the country club, drive down Osceola, have the benefit of viewing the house. At least we think it's a nice one to look at. This is the backyard, what I call the backyard. You see the stream down there. It's a steep slope on the backyard. This is looking from towards the waterfall, towards the golf course. This is a cliff in our backyard. More to come on that later. This is the other side of the cliff. Kind of a dangerous drop off here. This is the side yard. These posts here actually represent the location of the wall that I'm going to talk about, but just so you can get a sense of the where it's located, 150 feet away from this neighbor. And the trees in the front of the house, just so you know, we're going to remove those trees and we're going to put them along this fence here. They're 15-foot trees, so they're going to kind of be up here to give us some privacy on the side of our yard. This is also the side yard. So this was the original plan, and I want to go through it quickly because I don't want to waste your time because a major part of this has changed, and I just wanted you to be familiar with me and what I'm trying to accomplish. So we have 4 kids. We're trying to, we don't have any usable part of the back yard given the slope right now. I guess you could use it for sledding as we did during the winter. And I also found it useful when my 5-year-old son wants to keep throwing ball and I don't have time. I put him at the bottom and he throws the ball up top and the ball keeps coming back to him. So those are about the only things we're able to use the backyard for at this time. So our objective was to level a good portion of the yard to create usable space and safe playing, especially because the front yard is not going to be usable once we remove those trees. So these were the renderings, but again, I want to go through these quickly because we've changed what we're trying to accomplish here. These were very big structures. from the wall perspective. On the corner of these walls, the walls were 10 feet, and we had tiered walls to try to maximize this space. And over here, the walls started at 0 and went into their max here at 9 feet, which I'm going to come back to. These were renderings of the prior structure that we were contemplating in the plans that you have. In looking around the neighborhood, we noticed right across from me is this house. It's obviously a beautiful house. It has this circular wall. I wasn't able to measure the wall without trespassing, but I know this wall is more than 6 feet. But just to give you a sense of what's in the neighborhood. So this is, let me just take a step back. So we went to the zoning board because we were seeking variances for the sizes of the wall. And the neighbor that wrote a letter to this board also was there expressing concerns about the size of the wall, but also the materials and a couple of other items. And they sent us to this board, which I think with a letter to you, basically to see the design of it, if it's an appropriate project, and if there's no design issues and the neighbor's happy with the design of the wall, then we would go back to the zoning board, and I'm confident we would be able to get the variances that we wanted with everyone kind of on board with the project. But in looking at our prior plans, which was a very big structure in the backyard, it had tiered walls and parts of that wall was 10 feet. We've changed entirely what we're doing on the backyard to be this. This does not require a variance. It's 6 feet. And this is what the new renderings look like for the backyard. So you step down and this will be a little more of a formal area. Importantly for us, though, we're maintaining exactly what we were going to do on the side yard. And so there is a little variance that we're going to need in this 10-foot area because as it slopes down, it gets above 6 feet in this corner. But this is going to be our main flat area from a playing perspective. And as a reminder, all the trees on this right side, we're going to move here. So we're going to have 15 feet trees blocking that side area. So it's more private for us. Now it's loading. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, fit into when you finish.
Yes. So this is what I called the cliff before. Now this is like a beautiful, I can't tell you how many hundreds of plantings we're putting in there to make it like a garden-like structure. This is what it looks like from the top. Again, this being the key play area. This is what it is from the side. This is as you look from the bottom. And you see here on the side, this is the wall the neighbor was talking about, starts at 0, grows up to about 9 feet here, and then comes back down to below 6 feet. Yeah, this is the side again. Now, in terms of material for the wall that you can see from the golf course, this wall, we are going to use this. Paul Petretti is the engineer on this project, and I think it's good for all of us that we don't have to have Paul presenting at 9 p.m. But he'll be there for the next meeting where we plan to submit the formal plans for this new revised proposal. But in so doing, wanted to talk it through, get your feedback. I do think that Paul has a very strong preference for the side yard to use a segmental wall that looks like this, but given our plantings won't be visible to the neighbor, and they can have perspectives on that. I'd be curious to your perspectives on something that looks like this on the side wall that no one's going to be able to see once we cover it with plantings as well. Paul thinks that there's structurally the type of wall that you can do on the side, that doing this segmental wall is incredibly easier to do structurally, and there's some cost savings in doing it as well. This is the other wall that's going to look like in the front, but sorry, I went through that quickly. I didn't want to waste your time because I know we haven't submitted the formal plans for this, but I did appreciate any feedback.
What we're looking at now is what Paul's proposing for the south side.
For the side wall, correct.
Side wall, sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
So
And the plantings that you're putting in are conifers or?
So the plantings on the left side, those are abrevieties, the one on the left side. That's going to be blocking the 15-foot abrevieties from the front of the house.
Okay.
And then the other piece, and this will be more for the zoning board, but if you look at the house.
No, I understand you're moving the ones that are out front to the side.
To the side here. And
okay, cool.
So it's maybe, here. So this is it's not the best picture. It's going right here. So all along here will be 15-foot arborvitaes, and then all of the there's going to be still massive plantings around here, and then in the this will still be the same here in the corner, kind of like that. We have oh yeah, go ahead.
That's my question. I'm really confused.
Yep.
So the plan that I'm looking at
He's not doing that anymore.
You're not doing, so we actually, right, just want to make sure. We don't actually have a plan of what the new proposal is, right?
You don't have a Paul Petretti plan. These are the renderings, and we're going to submit a plan for the new proposal. But I wanted to get the feedback because I was already on the agenda with this plan. Because
Sure. So the plan, and then what I would suggest in addition to the plan is that this issue of sort of how high the wall gets and for how long.
Yep.
Can really, it's fine to look at these perspectives, but what we really need to see is this kind of, a set of dead-on elevations that show how the grade, how much of this wall is actually proud of our 6 foot, and for how long. So I actually went there today to walk it because
sorry, I confused you with all of my things in the ground.
If you go back to your winter view, I think that there is something to the neighbors. I went there actually with a prejudice that this is ridiculous. We're so far away from the other house. But actually, you do, especially if you go to that winter shot.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there, yeah.
It is visible.
They're going to see that wall. And so I guess.
Not when I put the trees in, though.
Well, that's the issue. So I guess that's the thing. We're sort of in a kind of little bit of a hypothetical world here. But I guess I'm wondering also, why isn't it possible just to sort of, because I feel like we've been getting our hands slapped a lot recently from the zoning board, wanting to know if these things are really hardships or not. And so I guess my question is, how difficult, you were prepared to do this kind of ziggurat on the play field in the back when you were doing it. How much would it really take actually to make the variance go away?
Yeah, the problem is this tree is the problem. I want to keep this tree, and so I would have to step this corner in further, and the reality is that I lose a significant piece of the, and listen, the reality is if I wanted to do it, I really could, but I'm pretty confident that when the zoning board sees that we're talking about 10 feet of wall that is only 3 feet above the variance requirement, and I significantly reduced the size of the wall and the structure on the backyard, and I have the support of all the other neighbors, and I'm going to put the trees. This wall at its height will not be visible to these neighbors, but they'll have an opportunity to see that, and you'll have the full plans in front of them. But at the end of the day, if I absolutely need to do it as a 6-foot wall, I probably could. I just don't think that given the distance and given, the fact that they're not going to be able to see it when I put those 15-foot arborvitaes there, I think balancing, the designers, it ends up being something really good for me. Doesn't affect them at all. And the community gets the benefit also of seeing my house, which I think is a nice thing to see when you're driving on that street.
But so for the moment though, we can't really the real review of this, I guess, will start next week.
What I would just add was
or next month.
The drawings that was submitted, the Petretti drawings for the original scheme, had full elevations. It was very detailed engineering plan. At full elevations where you could see.
But we haven't seen those, right?
And you had those. You had those, and the left side.
Excuse me.
Sorry,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, sir.
On the original, for the original plan, those have been submitted. So I was going to say, for this new layout, if we get the same type of elevations, you'll be able to see that and exactly how much distance. It's over 6 feet, let's say. So you'll.
Yep.
The plan was very detailed.
Yeah, I'm looking
fully
at
engineered.
Yeah.
Those Petretti plans on the left side actually will not change in the new renderings, because the only thing that's changing in the new renderings is what I'm doing in the backyard. So the left side.
What you may want to do is do like an offset of the 6-foot line or something, so it'll be like obvious to the planning board, the area, the length of wall that would say be over, and that would be good for the zoning board.
Yeah, they're going to want to see that too.
Yeah. Okay.
It seems like that rear area has been really substantially reduced. And just by the way, the reason this type of wall, I think that Paul Pedretti likes using this wall here, is that you're filling in here primarily. You're not excavating. You don't need to excavate a lot. These walls don't have to go very deep with deep foundations. So you're filling in, and the way these are built with geogrid tiebacks, you filling it in as you go, compacting it, putting the geogrid, because it kind of works with the situation here. So it would probably save money in the long run to do this type of wall.
And it's the facing stone that you intend to use, it's the same as what you were using in the planning?
It's this. It looks like this on the side of the wall. You can't like have it look like that. That's the concrete wall. This is the one that Paul wants to do on the left side. But on the, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
On the back side, like the semicircle is going to look like this, and it looks like as it does in the renderings. But on the side wall, this would be the way the side of the wall looks.
I actually like the sidewall better.
Yeah, I do too. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you really? You do prefer to the way that this one looks?
Well, that's just it's just pasted on, right? I mean, it's just face stone, or is it real stone?
Yeah. No, it's the face stone that you see around. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, it's sort of.
I
don't
think you can make that uniblock in the circle.
Interesting.
I prefer the real material, even if it's just a couple inches.
I don't golf.
We're not we're not the AHRB.
Yes, we are.
We are.
That would be like a veneer, like a stone veneer on a concrete wall.
No, there's a house on Parkway Drive that has that stuff, and it always gives me a little, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get those submitted, and we'll see you in person with Paul next time.
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Also, to
presentation.
help speed along this application, I also had a memo that was submitted, so if you can address all those comments as well, that would be helpful.
Yep. And those memos will be relevant for the new ones, so we will do that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, item number 3 on the pre-submission,
This is
21 Hollywood Drive.
Okay, she wants to
Sorry.
comment.
This is
Not a public hearing.
pre-submission.
Yeah,
It's not a public hearing.
it's next month, we'll have a public hearing. Should we call?
You're welcome to send a letter. Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks, we have your letter.
Yeah.
Well, it's another
It'll be another
pre-submission
pre-submission meeting in June.
Yeah, he has a different design, so
different scheme.
he's sort of starting over again.
And at that
You're-
time, the
you're
board will
155
likely
Sherman?
set a public hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for your letter. He's going to come in with a new plan in
This is
June.
the same, what happened today is going to happen in June, and the board will decide at that time whether to schedule a public hearing for the July meeting. Yep, right. Right. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
these things drag on.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda, 21 Hollywood Drive, pre-submission conference for proposed plans to construct a new single-family residence and garage on combined lot, whatever a combined lot is. Combined with what, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's 2 lots.
yeah, that's right.
I know that house you
Three
looked at
lots.
when we,
3 lots, yeah.
Combined with the neighbor, you know.
it's right on the border.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a piece in Hastings, just to
Yeah.
make it even more fun.
We looked at that house.
There's no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there is.
Hello.
Do the whole site.
Here it is.
It's extremely steep.
So it just keeps going down the hill to your house, right?
Yep. That's cool. I'm good with it.
All right, where are we? 21 Hollywood. Oh, my God.
No, isn't it?
You just introduce
photographers
yourself.
are down there.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you
Hi.
yes? Hi, I'm Mark Mancuso. This is my partner, Elliot Maltby, and we're the architects for 21 Hollywood Drive. We are proposing to build a new residence, single-family residence, on an existing lot that is actually comprised of 3 different tax lots, 2 in Dobbs Ferry and 1 in Hastings on Hudson. But the property exists as these three lots. Here you see sort of the elevation, the rendering of the front elevation as seen from the street. And this is the rear elevation As you can see, the site is sloped. It ranges from 15 to 25% slope. The house itself is in compliance with all zoning regulations. You can see the diagrams here for the prevailing heights were much lower than the adjacent buildings. Diagrams for the prevailing setbacks. The house itself on the site plan. And we are in compliance with the pyramid law. We also have submitted, with the help of an engineer, erosion control and stormwater management plan. There was a memo that was sent to us, with some concerns about some of the stormwater management, but those have been addressed by Ralph, who's somewhere out there in the Zoom land. And if they have not been received by the building department at this time, they will be sent in shortly.
This is Hastings. There's a piece.
So you're going to take down the little red house that's there?
Yeah, the house that's there is going to be removed. The house itself is pretty much in the same footprint. It's about that size. It's a two-story plus basement, and we're proposing a one-story plus a basement. That's really since the whole back is exposed, we're counting it as a story. Here's the floor plans with the lower floor and the upper floor here, with a garage that's separated by a breezeway. Here is the landscape plan that shows all the plantings that we're proposing. We are removing a few trees, but we are replacing them with the required caliper, and those are indicated here, and the species are indicated here. There's a few lights that you can see in the plan here with the specifications to the side.
It's 3 lots.
Yeah, the lot through the 3 lots together, it's a pretty large lot. Here's the demarcation between Hastings and Dobbs Ferry here.
Are there concerns? Do we have to coordinate with Hastings in any way to?
Yes. We have to notify Hastings.
We notify.
I suggest that your client has a Dobbs Ferry address. The Dobbs Ferry post office is much better than Hastings.
Oh, really?
Postal delivery.
I think he was saying that he would prefer the Hastings, but I think Dobbs is
Don't tell us that.
yeah.
It's grounds for rejection.
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can.
I see that in your topo that the lot just goes down, down, down.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, there's no real flat site, and we're really not proposing to flatten it out at all. It's really just going to be, there's a deck, a small deck that's proposed on the rear, but aside from that, it's really just a viewing yard.
Be able to look over the treetops.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Kind of quiet. Okay.
Call for a public hearing.
Yes.
You ready?
Yeah. I move we have a public hearing next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. This is cool.
Moving along.
Okay.
We'll be in person next time.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
be there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan, is there anything with sprinklers? Sprinklers?
Seneca.
Next item on the agenda, item number 4, 23 Seneca Street, pre-submission conference for proposed modification of existing retaining wall to
And what?
create on-site parking spot. This sounds simpler, somehow.
So the front of the property is sort of a bank, and it's just getting cut into to
Dan, is this,
have a parking space.
is
right?
this the kind of thing that we might waive depending? on-
This one, yes.
I mean, I looked at it, I couldn't.
And same with the next one.
Huh?
Same with-
Yes, definitely.
The next one too.
Well, we gotta allow neighbor comment.
We need comments? Yeah, okay. We need a public.
Pre-submission. Oh, for the AHRB. Oh, yeah, it's a little.
Okay, good evening. My name is Natasha Walko. I'm here from Opachich Architects, representing our clients for the property at 23 Seneca Street. We were here a couple months back for AHRB approval, and subsequent to that, the owners started reevaluating priorities for the site based on the fact that they're going to be moving in one of their elderly parents into the first floor level of the building, which was previously and is currently going to be still a two-apartment residence. So the elderly parent would be moving into the first floor, and in anticipation of developing accessibility needs or potential needs for having an in-house assistance, the owners sought to include an on-site parking dedicated spot that would facilitate access back and forth to the house should those needs arise. The plan, oops. So to the left is the original site plan, and we were previously just going to have a walk to the street and the retaining wall in the front that currently exists that we were going to redo. As part of the proposed plan, we were going to cut off the retaining wall at a point adjacent to the property line to allow for the parking spot. And the concept was to have the parking spot be in a pervious paver, a turf pave kind of thing. We have specified on the second sheet. So that would mitigate some of the drainage issues by increase of the lot coverage. So here we see the, I mean, it's in progress, obviously. This is, we have the different elevations of the house. In the front here, you see the retaining wall that exists that would be redone and veneered in stone to match what is being applied at the base of the building. And to the left of the property here, tight to the property line, is where the new parking spot would be located. And we have the context of the different buildings on the street and the view, not the view preservation.
You mean the sky exposure?
Sky exposure, yes, that's it. Glasses would be helpful. Okay. And so here is a section cut through the proposed driveway parking spot and the retaining wall that would be associated along the neighboring property line, which we're trying to step and minimize so that we're not creating, a visual barrier for the neighbor to that side, and also maintaining kind of a minimum slope to facilitate access in and out. And then these are related details for in and around the property, the wall that's at the front of the property, and then the wall here that would be between the drive and the neighboring lot.
Or is any of this structure in the village right away?
No. The wall is right at the property line, so it's within, I mean, the only part of it that would be within the village right away would be the actual curb cut and the drive entrance portion of it.
Call for a public hearing?
Yeah, I think so.
Do we need to, or can we actually wait?
Want to hear from the public?
You can if they have HRB comments.
Oh.
But it's pre-sub for planning, so you don't have to take any comments for that.
Waive it? Waive
Yes.
You can waive, well, you can waive planning, but
Yeah.
It's just the AHRB part, if anybody has any comments.
Can be public comment.
Okay. And that's, so that needs to be a public meeting? Or
You
they
have to have
write
a-
it in?
yeah.
You have to open a public. you have to open
It's not a public hearing with the AHRB.
No, it's just.
So if you're waiving on site plan, then you can just
Give
go,
the public an opportunity.
yeah, just see if there's any public comment on, on.
Right, we did notify for both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
I
okay.
think, right,
So the-
notification goes out right away for AHRB.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, was this meeting notice?
Yes,
Yes.
we notified for planning and
So
AHRB.
we can see if anyone has any comments
Yes.
right now?
Right, yeah. Anybody online? No?
All those people who missed their chance to comment about their planning?
We waited them out.
This is like, where are all those people that were had pitchforks?
We need a professional commenter out there.
Maybe not.
Every issue, you know.
Just so we need is more stuff.
Be careful what you ask for, you might get it.
Are there any concerns from the building department or?
We're just gonna look at some of the drainage with Anthony, maybe for
Yeah.
like by the sidewalk. We'll
Yeah, we
review
actually
that.
have that in process with our engineer. We're just waiting on
Before
the official
permit's issued,
calculations.
We will look at that.
Right,
And you will need a DPW permit for that.
Yes, I have the
Sidewalk.
application. I'm going to have them sign it to submit it.
The only thing I'll suggest, I don't think I realized that it was pervious pavers. So if he's relying on that, just let your engineer know. You see the way you have like the wall beyond it is stepped? The stone under the pervious pavers should also be stepped because of the slope.
Okay.
It'll facilitate, infiltration
Okay.
rather than just kind of running along that stone.
Right, and we did receive your comments, and actually, our engineer had the same suggestion about including a trench drain at the bottom
Okay.
of the driveway to catch some of that runoff that might be sliding off into the street. So we'll incorporate that.
Very good.
Where'd we end up?
So would the board like to pass a resolution
Yes.
for tonight's meeting?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So I'm just going to read the resolution and kind of plug in this, and then I'll prepare it and then finalize it to the applicant and the building department. But basically, whereas 23 Seneca Street is seeking AHRB approval for the modification of existing retaining wall to create an on-site parking spot. So now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings and reasons set forth below, the application for architectural and historic review approval is granted, and it's going to refer to the approved plans that were submitted for this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Do we motion it?
Yeah, you could vote on
Okay.
The
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Steve.
Wow. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
That way.
Have fun. Thank you.
The last item on our agenda for the evening, 197 Clinton Avenue, pre-submission conference for proposed plans to install an in-ground pool, masonry, decking, drainage, blah, blah, blah.
Mr. Chairman, we'd ask the same on this, if you're willing to waive site plan. It's an in-ground swimming pool.
Okay.
And there's no impervious surface issues or anything?
There's a little, we're gonna look at the drainage with Anthony also, but minimal.
Neighbors and lighting and stuff, anything like that?
Yes.
Neighbors?
Yes.
Right, I know that you guys both reviewed, you all
Yeah.
reviewed it. The, and again, was this meeting noticed as a?
Yes.
So for
It
AHRB,
was
they
noticed.
require, as part of the application, to notify the neighbors. So it automatically does for the pre-submission conferences, but because planning board also reviews it, and then we'll call for a public hearing, we just put both underneath the.
Okay. It's surrounded by trees, so who's going to see it?
Yeah, we're also going to put a privacy fence around it.
Nice house, looks good. It's right at the corner of Clinton.
It's surrounded by houses with pools, too.
Yeah, you know, eventually you just start feeling really jealous. But Bob Schweitzer, hopefully, Burns is up. He should be somewhere.
Oh, he's out in the interweb?
He's in the ether somewhere, yeah. Bob, are you there? I'm gonna just check my phone.
It was a long meeting.
So,
He's joining.
so is this a similar situation where we can see if anybody has any comments?
Yeah, yeah.
As part of the AHRB?
Okay, so as a planning board, we can waive site plan, and then we can just do an AHRB
Comments,
approval right now.
Approve the AHRB.
No comments from anybody online. I don't see anybody out there anymore.
There are some benefits to being last.
I could go comment if you want.
Hello.
Oh, there he is.
I was trying to figure out how to get on.
Bob, it seems to be going well. Let's not you may have the sales. So let's not.
All
Can
the
you hear
neighbors will
me?
be glad that your kids aren't jumping in their pools.
Well, you know, honestly, we're at our neighbors' houses all the time. So that's really
You want to look at one.
Hey, Bob.
Hey,
Hi.
Thanks for staying up.
You can hear me and see me now.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're making progress.
Yes.
Robert Schweitzer, landscape architect. Would you like to see some plans at this
We
point?
reviewed the plans that.
Yeah, we looked at the
Submitted.
plans. Anything different from the plans that we got?
No, no. We did get a review from Anthony,
Yes.
the engineer, and there were five points, and I've made those revisions. But it's minor things. So, other than that, the design, other than the fact that Mass, maybe you want to tell them about the wall.
Yeah, if anything, actually, we're scaling it back. We originally had an idea for, you may see that, a semicircular stone wall. Yeah. We're thinking of going a little bit more naturalistic and making that sort of shrubs instead, with the, obviously taking into consideration drainage at the end of at the edge of the decking instead. So just aesthetically and. doesn't-
Well, so then do you have to resubmit part of this approval will be, you'll resubmit a final landscape plan then, I guess, right? Or that'll be part of their,
I can make
that'll
that
be
as a
one of the
condition.
conditions, I guess. I mean, it sounds better, but I think
Yeah.
what we approve or waive should be what's gonna get built.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Does that require June 1st, or can we just submit those between the two meetings? And it's a pretty, I don't think it's any.
I'm looking
Sounds
at the
like
building
the
department.
condition.
What would you prefer?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How tall was the wall going to be?
It was, I think it was less than 30 inches.
Can you see my plan?
No.
No, but I'm looking at it here on my computer.
Huh.
That's not the upgrade.
See you, Bob.
He's taking that wall away.
Right, but they were asking how tall this is.
Trying to get it up. Can you see that?
No.
Nope.
not yet.
I don't know.
It's a 2-foot wall, but you're not gonna do it.
They're not even doing it. We have the section of the old wall.
Well,
They can see, I think they can see, Bob, you can see it, you can see.
On our screen.
They can see it on their screens.
Yeah,
okay.
but not the latest site plan. We
Oh,
can
yeah,
see the
yeah.
old wall. We can see the,
Yeah, basically, just.
Well, I have the plan here, but I don't know why you can't see it there. There's something I'm missing.
You can share screen on the bottom, there's a green tab.
Yeah, I hit that. Let me try it again here.
So was the wall was more like a landscaping.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It wasn't a
It
retaining.
doesn't even require a
We're not
permit,
worried
really,
about
it's
it.
less than 30 inches.
Exactly.
And we asked if there was any public comment on the
Is-
architect.
Can you see that now?
There
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so that's the wall. It's a small, it's literally 2 feet above the pool grade. And in the back, it drops down, I think, to about 3.5, maybe 4 at the deep end here. And we can grade this out. We don't need this retaining structure. So the idea was to just put a hedge in place, and I'll make some modifications to the drainage. We'll put a slot drain at the end of the deck, and be done with it.
Sounds good. You have funding for that hedge?
You got to ask the property owner about that.
I hope so.
The hedge fund. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be here all week.
All right.
Well, I'm comfortable with waiving the
Yeah,
site
me
plan.
And two.
Is there anybody on?
Anybody want to comment?
Everybody left.
No,
Everybody's sleeping.
I mean, it's,
All right, let's get him out of here.
All right.
it's pre-submission, so it's,
Well, we're going to waive.
We're going to waive
Yeah.
site
We're
plan.
waiving the
Yeah,
site plan.
yeah.
so
We're gonna do the
We're done with it.
Yeah.
actually.
You're gonna do AHRB approval.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so, again, whereas, I'm sorry, let me get my, 197, Clinton Avenue, 197 Clinton Avenue is seeking approval, AHRB approval to install an in-ground pool, masonry decking, drainage improvements, planting and fencing. So now therefore be it resolved, the AHRB of the Village of Dobbs Ferry determines that based upon the findings being set forth below, the application for AHRB approval is granted, and will refer to the approved plans for today's date, with the additional condition that they resubmit final plans with the removal of the wall, the decorative wall.
Sounds good.
Okay,
All in favor?
thank you. I move we adjourn.
Well, no, I think we have to vote on that.
What? All right. I move whatever she said.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Now, what about waiving the site plan? We have to do something for that, though, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've just, normally you just vote to waive.
Vote on it.
Okay.
Waive it.
We vote,
So-
All in
second,
favor?
propose that we vote to waive this project.
Site plan?
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right there, does that get?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
I move we
Thank you.
adjourn.
I have one quick thing with the planning board.
Oh, yeah, you have to adjourn.
Drawings for building permit.
Did trustee Bettino reach out to you about a committee that they're putting together for a PACE grant dealing with sustainability?
Need those
We
revised.
knew about it indirectly from Tiffany Venezuela.
Okay, so trustee Bettino, I think, was supposed to reach out to the
So we'll have a
board.
full party.
I think they're looking for a couple volunteers from the planning board to assist with this committee. It's going to be a combination of a number of representatives from various boards. It's going to look at sustainability in terms of, like structural sustainability as well as other programmatic or policies for the village. And it's kind of thought to be a little bit of a springboard or launching pad to actually potentially at some point in time in the future update your comprehensive plan and LW.
No, wow.
So is there anybody interested to volunteer?
I am interested, not
What,
surprisingly, but
what are you,
So if you're asking when it's gonna meet, when everyone's gonna meet, and I don't have that information, I think.
what kind of time are you asking from us?
Well, that's the other thing I don't.
Good night.
We don't really know. I mean, and PACE, it's a grant that PACE University received in conjunction with Dobbs Ferry, and they've worked with a number of other communities. So, I do think there will be a few meetings, there'll be some reviews of documentation. And then I think the thought is that, not that you have to stay on the committee forever, but the committee would be formed to also then start undertaking some other work.
And it wouldn't be sort of like a workshop where you go to PACE and you sit
No,
in other groups?
no.
No,
They'll
this would be,
convene here.
right.
They'll
this
convene
is-
the meetings
Oh,
here.
okay. Oh,
Are we allowed to have more than one representative from the
Yes,
planning
I
board?
can let the mayor and trustees know.
Yeah,
Who
we
else
can
is
think
interested?
about it.
I am interested, but
give it some thought.
Just Rob?
I'd be happy to have somebody else, because I run my mouth a lot. It'd be good to have like
Oh, you should.
it'd be good to have,
Is this being recorded still? You can stop.
it would be good. I'd be happy to have, I'd be happy to have a fellow.
Okay, now that the recording stopped, Patty's definitely gonna be on this. So
Do you know if that's true?
So yes.
And under what umbrella?